killing it on the social media. So I want to thank John Wallik for that. He's not here. He's still contributing to the show.
I can't believe he took kids to Paris. I just would never have done that. They can go on their own when they're married or something. I would not do that.
Well, there was the family element of going to see his sister in Luxembourg.
Okay.
So there was that. But yes, I agree that the museums and the churches and the Mona Lisa photo, which I will give him credit for. That one's funny. The hotel photo, that's what we all signed up for. But the other photos outside of the Notre Dame Cathedral, again, a photo of the cathedral, followed by a photo inside the cathedral. Yeah, I mean, he could have Google imaged these and just posted them, because anyone who's been there posts the same things. And you, come on, John, come on.
He's an Insta-dad. This is what it is. And you also know by the caption, which I'm going to defend our guy, John Wallik. But the Eiffel Tower caption reads as an update that no one asked about, like, oh, how is parking getting in? You're like, what? Well, I'm here for the game. The caption is, quote, wrapped up our stay with a lot of stair climbing at the Eiffel Tower, followed by an elevator at the top. It was an hour and a half wait just to get in, and I was told we were lucky it was only 90 minutes. How was the... What? The stairs? The wait?
It's what you say to your mom on the phone. It's like, because these are the things that only they are interested in. What was the line like? What did you do? Did you climb the stairs? No. Did anybody throw up from eating undercooked meat? That's what we would like to hear about. Did you?
Yes.
Did you all end up sleeping in the same room in that hotel? What is the coffin size like bedroom that you described for your kids? I want a photo of that. That's the stuff we want. Not of the Eiffel Tower from the ground and then 2 shots from high above the city. And I get it. I understand why you want to do it. You'll never look at those photos again yourself. Why do we want to look at them now?
If you take a good photo, you might look at it again.
Yeah, I do.
Like, we went to Paris, and I took a photo of my wife.
Are these good photos? Or are they just stock?
These aren't. I mean, these are
Eiffel Tower
right.
photos.
You can get these online.
Yes,
you're right.
Yes, they've been taken millions of times by now.
You're right.
Maybe hundreds of millions, maybe billions of all the people that go to Paris. They all take the same 3 photographs that John Wallik posted on Instagram.
So can I just admit something, and people aren't going to like this, but just while we're talking about John's photos, for big and large, I am out on photos without humans in them.
Well, that's...
I don't care about views. I don't care about anything like that. I want humans. If there's no humans in the photo, I give John credit for the Mona Lisa. At least he got a part of him in that one.
Isn't that like the photo tip number 1 that we all got when we all started taking hundreds of photos every day? Pictures with people are
I see a lot without people.
Always better than pictures without people.
So I'm the opposite. When I go to a wedding and everyone does the same first photo and it's you and your partner, and then the caption just happens to mention, oh, congrats to Johnny and Lisa, who are not in the photo. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I would rather see the Eiffel Tower, which this is where I'm actually going to defend him, because I said I would defend John and then I did not. What is he supposed to take a picture of a street corner because no one's done that before? Like, this is what he went to Paris for.
Yes.
Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame, and apparently a tiny hotel room. I'm glad I got to see that.
Give me a picture of a funny French guy on the street corner.
Moulin Rouge, something there.
Give me something a little different.
With a baguette.
You like this photo. You felt it was worth your time looking at it. The Eiffel Tower photo.
The photo says I was here. I've never been there. I'm happy for my friend John, and I'm happy to make fun of him as well.
Okay. That's what we're doing. You can be happy for him and also say that these are worthless photos he posted.
I will say the Mona Lisa one is my favorite.
The Mona Lisa one is good because he's in it. Yeah. It's got some nice,
but it's only half his face.
And that's what makes it artistic. You see, he's in France, and now he was starting to spread his artistic wings, so to speak, and then I don't know. Maybe they're toward the end of the trip, and now he's reverting back to same old Wallik.
I looked at that photo just now, the Mona Lisa one, and I was trying to decipher, is he trying to be funny? Like, I didn't know if he was trying to be funny or if that was just his natural reaction. And just that process I went through quickly entertained me.
I believe this is the Wallik, his classic, and may I say trademark, understated humor. Okay?
Okay.
So now the half photo. I actually think that is the best photo of the entire roll, which consists of about 8 photos. But the half face and the caption, that's the Mona Lisa in the background. This is as close as I could get to it, and it's I love the composition of the photo. I think it's well done. I think it has a comic element to it. That to me, that's worth my time. That's worth looking at. The Eiffel Tower stuff. Try and defend him if you want to, Callahan. It's garbage.
This Mona Lisa photo, I just realized, is genius. Do you know why?
Talk to me.
He's making the Mona Lisa face. I looked at this and go, he's kind of smiling, but he's not overtly smiling. The smile is in his eyes, which, of course, this makes for a wonderful audio medium. And then if you cover his eyes, as I'm doing on my screen right now, and you just look at his lips, it doesn't look like he's smiling.
You know what? If you move from side to side, his one eye in the photo follows you.
Really does.
Just like the Mona Lisa.
You can hear a Go Bryant in there as well. He's doing the Mona Lisa face with Mona Lisa in the background. He's like, you can't see it all the way back there. I will do it for you.
I would like to give him that much credit, but shouldn't his head be turned like a quarter cock in order to really pull off the full Mona Lisa?
No, this is modern Mona.
No, you can't change. There's no such thing as the modern Mona. No.
It is. It's John Wallik.
You're giving him too much credit. He wasn't doing the Mona Lisa face, and if he did, he messed it up because he's in.
It's not on purpose. Let's be clear. I don't think John did this on purpose, but he did it.
He didn't do it.
He did it. Tell me that's a smiling non-smile.
Okay, but if he's really going to mimic the Mona Lisa, he has to turn his head a little bit, and he didn't turn his head.
See, I thought it was one of those side-eye emojis where you're annoyed by the fact he couldn't get closer to the painting. Like, that's what I thought he was trying to pull off.
Yeah, I mean, he at the very least has to turn his shoulders and turn his head back more toward the camera, but he didn't do that.
What is his hair not long enough for you too? Come on.
I just don't. I'm giving him credit for the photo. I'm saying that's a good photo, but now you're trying to make it more than what it is.
See, this is what art people do, though. They debate about what they see and whether or not it's there. I think that this is mission accomplished. The fact that we're having this conversation 10 minutes into the show, after I don't even really know what happened last night, is a credit to him.
We know what happened last night. I took one photojournalism class in college as part of my journalism degree, and I had to do like a photo story, right? So one of my roommates was ROTC, and I'm like, okay, I'll follow him around, watch some of his training, all this stuff. So I took a photo of him sitting on the stairs at the ROTC building, and on each step there was like, honor, valor, courage, and I remember the instructor saying something like, whenever you can have graphics, in a photo with people, that's a cool thing. It's like an actual caption for you without having to caption it. So I plopped him down on the stairs, and he sat there, and I took a photo, and she looked at it, and and so, I developed it. This is back in the day when you had to go into the dark room. And, you had to, dodge and burn the edges to get the shadows right and all this stuff. I mean, it really was a process. And she takes it in front of the class, and she starts talking about the brilliance of this photograph, because on the wall next to the stairs, and she's talking about, like, the look in his eyes and, the writing on the stairs where I took his photo and all this stuff. But on the wall next to him, it was painted in camouflage, because it was their OTC building. And she said, but let me tell you the most brilliant part of this photograph. It appears as though he's casting a shadow that is really just the painting of the camouflage. But you see how he positioned his subject, so he's mirroring the outline of the camouflage. I'm like, I didn't do any of that. I didn't even notice the camouflage. I have but yeah, I'm just nodding my head. I'm like, glad you picked up on that.
Didn't think you would.
Glad you saw that. Saves me the awkward moment of pointing out to you, the professor, and everyone else in this class, what I was going for in this piece.
Do you still have the photo?
Yeah, I do. I'll. You know
Can
what?
you post it?
I'll bring. Yeah, sure.
I would love to see it.
Well, would that be a good Instagram post?
Yeah, we can talk about it Monday with Wallik. See what he sees.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. How late did we all stay up last night watching the draft? At Callahan, I know you were in for the whole thing.
Yes, I left Gillette Stadium at 12:30. Got home a little bit after 1. Went to bed a little after that. So watched the whole thing, wrote about it, covered it.
Where do they have you watching it?
So we are in the media workroom at Gillette Stadium, which has moved a couple of times over the last few years. But I'm lucky enough that within this workspace, which consists mostly of a main room and then offices to the side that are closed, the Herald has an office. So Doug and I sit in cubicles in this small office with a TV, just like everybody else, watching as we're writing what Vrabel said, what Will Campbell said, and that's where we were most of the night.
Okay. And so then you just go down the hall for whatever pressers they're going to do or anything? Or
No, they come to us. So that main room consists of the podium everyone sees where Vrabel stands
Oh, you've
up.
got a room right
Yes.
attached to that room.
Basically,
Okay.
we are basically like in the producer room here, and then if you stuck a microphone at one end of our space here, and then there are just chairs in front of it. So it's auditorium-style seating in the main room.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did you were able to watch the coverage, because I assume you've never been in the actual war room, like in the draft
No.
room. Okay. Even when it's not, in time of war, that's a place you don't get to go.
Bill was going to invite me one year, and I think it just got lost in the mail. I don't really know what's
Yeah,
going to happen.
I'm sure. But did you notice watching it, the Patriots war room compared to other teams?
Yes.
Other teams have like ginormous like projectors and screens and like gleaming glass conference tables and just like cool, almost sci-fi looking stuff. And the Patriots, it's a bunch of like folding tables that they got from BJ's, 3 days ahead of time, and a couple of laptops, cords everywhere.
We have whiteboards, is what that room says. Everywhere.
It's not as impressive.
No, this is look, we can do the crafts are cheap thing, but it really just screamed like Belichick minimalist type of style. The room's got a lot more people than it did back in those days, but he was like, I've been doing this for 40 effing years. Do you think I need a touch screen, Hardy?
I don't think anybody does. And I don't think it speaks to the cheapness. I think it speaks to maybe just some of the outdatedness of what teams and what people who work for teams are getting accustomed to when they go around the league. But still, here in New England, it's like, no, we don't do any of that stuff. The war room aspect of it, though, is interesting to me because years ago, not all that long ago, it was one of the first times one of these huge jackpots in either Mega Millions or Powerball got to the whatever it was, $700-800 million mark, right? You got to go back years because Jim Louth was still producing the midday show. And we shot around what we would do if you won almost $1 billion. And even after tax stuff, you've got more money you know what to do with. What one sports-related thing would you splurge on, right? And I don't want to hear about the house you're going to buy or anything. No, specific to sports, what's the one thing? And Jim Louth's answer was, I would buy my way in, no matter how much booster money it takes, I would buy my way in to the Patriots war room on draft day. We said, what? You would, like, what if they would do it, but it's going to take like a $20 million donation to the Putnam Club or whatever? He's like, oh, I would do it. I said, that's what you would spend your money on. And like, imagine he did it. And last night was the year they finally had him signed up for it. It's like, yeah, it's Will Campbell. Just like we thought all along. Was there any conversation? No, zero. No, there were a couple of guys batting things around, but their opinions don't matter.
Well, this must have been during the height of Belichick, right?
But even during the height of Belichick, would you spend real money to buy your way into the specifically the Patriots war room?
That's not what I'm doing.
Could you? Does that interest you at all, Andrew?
It interests me, and I know people have been in there before, and I think it's a cool experience. But no, because
to watch them trade out of their first pick in the first round for an extra second,
just for them to go, we don't really like anybody. We don't like.
That's the point.
Like if I'm gonna get in there and I have to pay regardless of the outcome, there's no refund, no partial refund. I want to be on the phone and say, look, when the next team calls with a trade offer, I at least get to pick it up. I'm going to pass it to you, but I just want to hear him be like, all right, John Schneider, what do you got? Extra second, throw it in there. And he'll be like, who the hell is this? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll pass it on. You know, how many experiences, though, would you put on top of that in your list of things you would pay for, though? You know, tickets aside, championships aside, but things within sports you would want to go be a part of in an experience.
Okay, how many things would I rank ahead of being in the Patriots war room on draft day?
Make it the line, whatever war room that you want.
All of them. All of the experiences, I would put ahead of a bunch of guys standing around talking about guys that they've already been talking about for 6 months.
You're not a draft guy, though. Mark, are you? Where is that for you?
I am a draft guy, but I don't really get all that. It doesn't interest me all that much to be in the room.
I don't think there's that much last-minute stuff going on. Maybe when you get into the third and fourth round, but...
Again, if you had asked me this 20 years ago, it might have been different. During the height of Belichick and the mystique and everything that was all the winning that was going on, I don't know if there's any drama really that I'd be missing out on.
Right. And like the big surprise, which we'll get to here in a moment, last night was Cleveland trading the pick with Jacksonville. And as much as we may want to believe that this was oh my God, this is out of nowhere. You're talking to Travis Hunter, it's like he knew what was happening. You could tell by his reaction. He knew that was going
Schefter
down.
said they were working on that trade for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And Travis Hunter said, yeah, they've been talking to me since, I don't know when, but of course. Yeah, I'm going to, you guys didn't know? You guys didn't know that Jacksonville was moving up to take me here? Everybody else did. So they did. In that war room, I don't think being there at that specific moment would be all that amazing because it's not happening in the moment.
So what I'm thinking about are behind-the-scenes looks. Again, this is not you get to go to the game. You're at the Super Bowl. You're first row at the finals, World Series, All-Star game. All that's a different category. If I'm there in the war room, we'll do 3 days now. I get to ask questions. I see what they're going to do. I'm there when the phone calls come in or they don't.
We told this to Louth. You don't get to speak. You just sit there and watch.
So what other behind-the-scenes experiences, though, would be ahead of it? Like,
it doesn't have to be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'd spend my money on a 9-hole golf course somewhere.
Correct.
That's what I'd buy. That's sports-related.
Look, to be clear, I would not do that, but I get the intrigue for him. See things you're not going to see. What could have been this play or that? Because some of it comes out, right? But most of the content you get from these teams' war rooms are all produced by the team. It's very team-friendly. You don't get what we found out a couple of days ago, that Elliott Wolf wanted something out of the Chargers and couldn't get it and was like, whatever, you can just have this trade.
Honestly, what would be the most interesting part of being in the war room? To actually physically see their board. Like what players they had ranked where and know,
That's what I'm saying.
They really wanted him, but they didn't come close to him. They ended up with him. He was way down on the list.
It's worth a gander, but I would pay you nothing for it. I'd be interested to look at it, but I'm not paying for that. There's no amount of money. How about $1?
I'd pay something, but it wouldn't be
$20.
I mean, I could pay more than that. It wouldn't be my endless funds that I just won. That wouldn't be what I would go with.
All right. Let's find out specifically what happened last night if you did not stay up for the draft. A couple of big stories early on, and then some other things happened later in that first round. We'll get to all of that next here on Toucher and Hardy on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Did you catch a game last night?
All right, there were a couple of games last night. We'll get to those a little bit later on what happened last night, which is brought to you by Leonard Hair Transplant Associates, where your hair doesn't have to be a game of what happened. So change your lettuce and change your life with Dr. Matthew Lepresti at 1-800-GET-HAIR. And something tells me we're going to start with the draft, Mark Dondero.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first few picks there went as expected, I guess you could say, but there was a big shakeup early on, and once I fully got through my process of figuring out whatever Adam Schefter was wearing, I realized that there was a big trade that happened at the second overall pick.
We have a trade. The Cleveland Browns have traded the second pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with the second pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Travis Hunter, wide receiver, defensive back from Colorado.
So that was a bold move by the Jags, but one I respect and support.
Took it to the limit.
They're going to have a newcomer come in there.
We're just playing by the rules.
Well, they're going to steal the show. Okay, so Schefter, do we have Schefter breaking it down?
I don't know.
I was looking for it. I kind of had trouble finding it, but I'll keep looking for it.
It feels like the one thing maybe I asked for in the pre-show meeting. It feels like maybe the one request I made of the day, Ryan. Is that fair?
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay. All right. It feels like maybe. Do you guys remember that? Because I don't ask for. I'm easy to work with, right? That's kind of the one thing I wanted. I'm like, can we have Schefter like making the actual announcement? And it feels like both Ryan and George were like, oh yeah. That's no problem. That's no problem. That's it.
All fair.
It just seems weird.
This is
it
now a
seems odd.
chance for one of us to do a fake Schefter, though.
Oh, all right. Well,
do you have one in you, Mark?
Fake Schefter? I don't think I have one.
How about Alex Barth breaking the trade? That could be even better.
Oh.
Bill Belichick said last year, you don't get the real draft intel about 12 hours before this started. The rumblings this afternoon, it's come to fruition. The Browns have traded out of the second overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Browns are moving on from number 2, also 104 and 200, 104 and 200, to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
For what? All right, Alex. I'll tell you what it was. According to my sources, the Jaguars gave up the number 5 pick. Oh, this steered somewhere else. Number 36.
Are you doing
number 126?
Is this Schefter?
And the number 1 pick in 2026 for Travis Hunter, the consensus best player on the board. It's a blockbuster. Back to you, Greeny.
He's an A++, 10 out of 10, top of the heap, king of the hill, A number 1, two-way player. Yeah, you gotta throw in. You have to say the same thing over and over again, and use 100 words when 10 will do. That's essentially the Schefterism there. Just for a moment, we won't spend a ton of time on it, but the fit that Adam Schefter was going with last night.
No idea. There looked to be a hood attached somewhere there. It was a tie. I get it was Green Bay, so sort of business in the front, party in the back type of thing. I was totally confused, and it took me a second to get over that before I could digest what was actually happening.
So we need to at least allow for the possibility that it is some kind of 2-in-1 garment, because Fred Toucher has worn this at least once to the Mike Gorman celebration night at the Celtics. The sport coat with the hoodie sewn into the back of it. I've only seen it one other time in my life. I remember Shaquille O'Neal wearing one onto either Letterman or Conan or something like that. And that was like years ago. So Fred's proclamation that this is the height of fashion and that this is something really cool, A, I push back on, and B, what are you doing? It's one of you're either going to wear a hoodie or you're going to wear a sport coat, but you can't be both. It is the mullet of garments. It's supposed to be business in front and party in the back.
Yeah, keep it separate. Like either wear the classic button-down tie underneath with the jacket,
right?
Or as I've done increasingly more often, thin hoodie underneath and then the jacket. But like the sewn-in part, I don't get.
But is it the thin hoodie with a sport coat type jacket,
yes,
or just a jacket?
Yes.
Oof. Okay.
Wow. I've never even considered that.
Do you feel that you pull it off?
Well enough, yeah.
Okay. Schefter looked uncomfortable wearing it. And it must have been cold there last night because everybody was dressed warm.
Yeah.
So I get wanting to be warm, but I don't know that you can do that. I don't know if Adam Schefter can do it.
I think he considers himself big time, and I wonder if this aligns with that sort of mentality. Like, was that a Tom Ford? Does that guy do something like that?
I'm looking at it again. It's definitely a separate hoodie underneath the jacket. It's got to be. This is not like a Fred Techer thing. Okay. And it's also very calculated because it all matched. I would say a little too perfectly, a little too matchy-match, as my wife will sometimes tell me. I'm like, how do I look? She said, a little too matchy-match. You got a Garanimals thing going on there. And I see what you did, matching your T-shirt underneath to the pants, but you can't do that. You got to stop.
Headline in the New York Post: Adam Schefter's NFL draft fit gets completely shredded. One of the worst looks. Now, this is just an aggregation of all mean things said on the internet, which is now like 10% of articles that you will find. But, it is the complete hoodie, unless this is sewn in, like, underneath.
I don't think it is. No, I think it's a full separate hoodie. Who dressed you today, my guy? I can't tell if you dressed for TV or the gym. Never seen a hoodie over a tie and under a jacket. It's the tie. It's the tie that's throwing everybody off.
Yes.
Yes. You know what? I'm going to say, fine. For you, Fred, anybody else, okay, I get it. I wouldn't do it, but if you're just wearing a hoodie with a jacket and no tie, fine. It's a choice. The tie is what throws it. What are you doing?
It was mid-50s last night in Green Bay.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
You don't need that much extra layers at mid-50s, but I didn't like it, and I thought he could have been better in that spot. Okay.
All right. So they Jacksonville, and Kendra's going to be here later. We're going to talk about this a lot more, but Jacksonville gives up their first round pick at 5 to move up to 2. They give up a first rounder next year. That's the big piece, and then there's some pick swapping for this year later on in later rounds. Does that pretty much sum it all up?
Yes, this was a trade for quarterback that they viewed and justified as getting both a corner and a receiver, because that's Travis Hunter's deal.
Yes.
How I also look at this is this was an NBA trade in the NFL draft. Like when you come up from number 5 in a draft that has 2 guys at the top, potential all-stars you can build around, maybe not a number 1, but a number 2, you give up this type of haul. And that's what Travis Hunter is going to be now. Like in the way that when Cooper Flagg goes to Utah or Washington or whatever, you are instantly much more willing to watch the Wizards or the Jazz. I now am captured by what the idea of the Jaguars could be with Travis Hunter, because he will play 2 ways. And even if he only played 1 way, he might be the best prospect we've seen in years at receiver or corner. So when you look at the haul, you go, oh, that's a lot. And I agree. And I probably would not have done this trade for the Jaguars. The way they approached this was, he's a franchise-changing player, and we already have the quarterback. Let's go up and get him. Like, this was both a good business decision and a football one, if it works out. But the way that it all came together was very much more like the NBA, which is what I loved about this.
Yeah, and we know that Trevor Lawrence has had some good moments, but they need to know exactly what and he's been so up and down. Like, I picked them last year. I think it was last year to win the AFC or be in the championship game, and for Lawrence to be the MVP.
Oh, no.
It was bad. And I just thought the trajectory was there, and it wasn't. And now you get a guy like this. Maybe you can realize that potential just in the nick of time before Lawrence becomes a bust or something close to that, because he hasn't been on the same plan as when he was in that playoff game in Kansas City and looked good.
It's interesting to know, too, that before the draft got started, there was some, shooting around the room from different analysts about who the first quarterback was going to be off the board. Would it be Cam Ward, which we all knew it was going to be, and that Cam Ward, that's what's happening, in Tennessee, and Cam Ward, and multiple analysts on ESPN said Shador Sanders should be the guy, and he should be the number one pick off the board. And I'm thinking to myself, are these guys are they being instructed to say that? Do they have to say it? Is it something that's being told, you need to take this side of the argument or else we're not going to have a pre-draft show? Because otherwise, what kind of credibility do you have left after you not only say he should be, and you can have that opinion, of course, you can have whatever opinion you want, but to somehow predict that it's going to happen? You don't know until you absolutely know, but with a 99.99% certainty, it was going to be Cam Ward, not Shador Sanders. And to say otherwise in the minutes leading up to the draft seems like lunacy to me.
It's crazy. It's part of the ESPN employee kind of know-it-all-itis, because if you're Booger McFarland, for example, you're doing Saturdays in the college football studio from noon until about 7. Halftime of every game that they're broadcasting. You have to know about all of these teams. Oh, and then we're going to ask you to do NFL on Sundays, at which point you can't keep up. And so you see even like Ryan Clark or someone who's on NFL Live. That man is not grinding tape. He has a whole podcast. He's building a whole business out of his own brand. He's very successful at it. But when you only have so many hours in the day, you're not going to know that Shador Sanders is guaranteed not to go number one. Like, they should have known better. The producer should have said the opposite of what you're alleging, which is, hey, stir this at the top. Like, let's skip over this. But I knew, sitting here in New England, in cold Massachusetts, this is not going to happen. The teams that I've talked to do not see Shador Sanders as a first-round pick, and Burt Breer's going to be in here later, and he tweeted as much last night. So they should have known that, but they're asked to do too much and stretched to do too much, so you just say things. Oh, I'm so surprised.
Mel Kiper wouldn't get off of it. I mean, what are we doing? He lost me, though, in, 2009? I remember he did the same thing with Jimmy Clausen, and it was ridiculous. If you watched him play at Notre Dame, he didn't even look like he belonged in Division I. And you're talking about him like a first-round pick in the NFL draft. He lost me, at least with his quarterback analysis. He lost me then, and last night was just as ridiculous. All right, the Patriots.
Oh, hold on one second.
Okay, sorry.
We got to step aside, but I want to grab one call before we do here quickly from Brian in Bellingham. Yes, Brian?
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Hey.
Hey, the whole hoodie suit jacket thing, that's a real thing. There are stores that sell it. I can name one of them if you want me to name it. It's Johnston and Murphy. That store is at the Natick Mall on the second floor. It's also at the Rentham Outlets. That sells a hoodie suit jacket.
You wouldn't happen to work for that store, would you? Brian?
No, I don't work for it. I have a couple of shirts from there. They're really nice shirts.
Okay.
They're expensive, though.
$300.
Okay, all right.
$299.50 to be exact.
And thanks for the call. I appreciate it, Brian.
Yeah.
I understand that it is a thing. I also just went back and found in this moment Shaquille O'Neal wearing, and this is like a prototype of the hoodie sport coat that he wore, as I said, on Letterman. The hoodie is actually sewn into the back of the lapel of the sport coat, and that's from 2018. So this has been around for a while.
It's a nice website, too.
This is not a new thing. BostonHerald.com. Boom.
Bang.
Headlines here with Mark Dondero. And then what did the Patriots do at number 4? If you were in the war room yesterday, you would have seen some scrambling around at the last second trying to figure out what they were going to do at number 4. Nobody saw this coming. The excitement. It must have been palpable. You must have been able to feel it through the walls at Gillette Stadium last night, Andrew.
The silence of the phones not ringing was deafening.
We'll talk about that and more with the draft next. Hold on.
Sports Hub headlines presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Patriots made it official last night when they selected LSU offensive tackle Will Campbell with the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft. Campbell gave up just 5 sacks in 3 seasons with the Bayou Bengals and will be asked to be the blindside protection for Drake May for the next decade. The Patriots, meanwhile, will go into day 2 with the 38th overall pick in the 2nd round, followed by the 69th and 77th picks in the 3rd round. Other headlines surrounding the draft include the Jaguars trading a haul to go up from number 5 to number 2 to draft Colorado's Travis Hunter. After selecting Abdul Carter with the 3rd overall pick, the New York Giants later traded back into the 1st round to take Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart, and Colorado quarterback Shador Sanders did not get selected in the 1st round. He's still on the board. Jason Tatum remains doubtful for the Celtics in advance of Game 3, which will be tonight. Tip will be at 7 o'clock pregame with Grandy and Max. It's 6:30. You can hear Radio 98.5, the Sports Hub. Celtics up 2-0 in that series. Other NBA results from last night. The Knicks outlasted the Pistons 118-116. New York with the 2-1 series lead in that. The Thunder erased a 29-point deficit to beat the Grizzlies in Memphis 114-108. John Morant left that game in the second quarter, however, after taking a hard fall. Thunder up 3-0. And the Clippers throttled the Nuggets 117-83 last night. Clippers up 2-1 in that series. Finally, Garrett Crochet gave up 4 earned runs in the first 2 innings as the Red Sox dropped the rubber game of their series with the Mariners by the count of 4-3. Alex Bregman did homer. The Sox will begin a 3-game set with the Cleveland Guardians beginning tonight. Tanner Houck will get the ball for Boston. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Eastern Mass's leader in drain cleaning and pipe lining. Drains by James. Slow drain? Clogged drain? You need to contact Drains by James today at drainsbyjames.com. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 30 minutes.
More Toucher and Hardy on the way on the Sports Hub.
Are you ready? Yeah. Let's go.
Critics are calling The Accountant 2 undeniably awesome.
Is your brother up to...
Fletcher and Hardy.
Such an fantastic explosion.
98.5, the Sports Hub.
What the Patriots did last night. Let's hear Adam Schefter breaking down the big pick at the top of the draft last night, or the big trade at the top of the draft last night.
Srini, we said this would be the quarterback range, and the New York Giants have just traded back into the first round to pick number 25, which belonged to the Houston Texans. In return, they're giving up pick 34, pick number 99, and a third-round pick in 2026. The Giants at 25 are on the clock. Look for a quarterback here.
That's the second one.
I have the first one here.
All right, Greeny, we have the first trade of round one. The Cleveland Browns have traded out of the second overall pick. They're moving back to number 5 to the Jacksonville Jaguars spot. In return, the Browns will get the number 5 overall pick, a second-round pick, number 36, a fourth-round pick, number 126, the first-round pick of the Jaguars in 2026. The Jaguars, in turn, get the number 2 pick, a fourth-round pick, and a sixth-round pick.
Everybody get all that? As it was happening last night, it's like, okay, I get it, but there was like so much going on in the moment, and he's so excited. I get the feeling that as much as everyone in Jacksonville knew this was going to happen, Travis Hunter knew this was going to happen. Obviously, the Giants knew it was going to happen. Do you think Schefter knew it was going to happen?
Yes.
He did.
Because he said soon thereafter, they've been working on this deal for 2 weeks. Because he had to scream over everyone there, the 200,000 people, Hardy.
And some sweet 70s era rock and roll going on in the background, too. I mean, that was a party last night in Green Bay. That was good stuff.
Didn't hear the 70s era rock and roll.
You didn't hear that?
No. I don't like music from the 70s, by and large.
What? Nothing?
No, not really.
You don't like The Who?
No.
You don't like the Rolling Stones?
No.
You don't like Led Zeppelin?
No.
You don't like Jimi Hendrix?
Along the Watchtower's fine. Other than that, no.
Sensing a pattern here, Hardy.
All right, I'll stop asking.
Do you feel out of breath listening to Schefter last night when he was doing that? Like you kind of understand why. A, it's loud, but B, he had been sitting on this news and these rumors and for 2 weeks, which you go, okay, everyone would have loved to have known, but this underscores it's a TV event last night, and that man was so excited to finally share with the world, like he was announcing he was having a kid. It's a girl and a 2026 first-round pick to the Browns from my wife.
Yeah, he thought about that moment for weeks leading up to it. He knew
we have been trying for months. They say the best part about having a baby is making them, but I have to say this moment I am also overjoyed to announce.
This is better.
All right, so Cam Ward, number 1. We got the pick there at number 2. Travis Hunter ends up in Jacksonville. Abdul Carter goes to the Giants at number 3, which leaves us with what marked on Darryl?
That would be the Patriots picking at number 4, and as expected, well, they got their man.
With the 4th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Will Campbell, tackle, LSU.
So the Patriots decide to go for protection up front for their diamond in the rough quarterback rather than anything else. Your thoughts, Daniel Jeremiah?
Of all the teams in this draft, to me, the tackle need for the Patriots was probably the most glaring across all 32 teams. They had to go in this direction. They go with Will Campbell out of LSU.
And then when Campbell got on the stage, he was interviewed and followed his selection with this soundbite here.
I've worked my entire life to be up here, to be able to get my name called by a franchise like New England. It means everything to me.
We can feel that. We absolutely can feel that, Will. You are brought to New England to protect Drake May. What kind of tone are you going to set on this offensive line?
I'm going to fight and die to protect them with everything I've got.
Congratulations, Will.
All right. I'm not going to make any Forrest Gump comparisons or anything easy like that.
Okay.
He seems like a nice kid. I hope he's a 10-year awesome all-pro.
It's my boat.
Okay, left tackle, all that stuff, right? I know what you're doing with the pinstripes. I'm on to you.
Enlighten me.
Trying to look longer. He is all I could think of when I saw him walking out and wearing that suit, I said, it looks like Tyler Milliken going to a wedding. He's built like Milliken. A huge Tyler Milliken, but he's got a Milliken thing going on with him.
Sounds like we got to set up an interview.
Take it however you want it.
I think Will Campbell would show you his nipples if you asked.
I mean, we are talking about, a football player, so it's okay. And we're not shaming, we're not doing anything. I mean, his primary job at left tackle is to be big and formidable and to have a physical presence. And physically, he's tall and he is big. There is something going on, I will say, from the shoulders down that is unsettling. There's just something. There's something about him.
He's not
great.
broad enough for you?
Do you want me to tell you? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, this is what we've been talking about. I know
shoulders.
It's
the arms.
The wingspan.
The everything. Right.
So the arm length has gotten a lot of airtime on here. I know we've talked about it. I've written about it. It's not great. 33 inches is what it is. The wingspan, if he starts at tackle, will be the shortest of any offensive tackle in the NFL since at least 1999, according to Mock Draftable.
Okay.
And there's one comparison of guys within even an inch and a half longer because he's 77 3/8 inches for his whole entire wingspan.
Okay.
Which, in addition to being 6'6", he's 320 pounds. Like, he is a tall, slender 320 at 6'6". The wingspan matters, A, because of the historical data, but also the simple fact his job is to get in the way. And his skill set of being able to move side to side is very valuable. But at some point, there's not a lot of breadth to get around, right? Like, he's going to be met speed with speed. And when you saw him lose at LSU on an island, it's because once you get by him, there's not a whole lot there to get in the way.
And again, all the talk about his footwork, his ability when he does get beat out on the outside, his ability to spin around to the inside and get back and still be in a protective position. I get all that. I hope it all comes to fruition. That the game speeds up. And I heard one interesting analytic last night when they were talking about Travis Hunter. They said the game is slower in the NFL for the purposes of being Travis Hunter. If you're going to play both sides of the ball, you have more time to adjust and to get ready for those things more so than in college. Drives tend to last a little bit longer, or you have I don't know what exactly you're talking about, whether it was the TV timeouts, but they were talking about the slowness of the game. But after the actual snap, no, that's when it gets faster. In those moments after the snap, and will his footwork and athletic ability and be enough to make up for what he's lacking for? And let's just call it the breadth, the width, which obviously you look at him, okay, it's not necessarily there. Does seem like a really nice kid. And nice to see somebody show some genuine emotion and not immediately revert into self-congratulatory promotion mode as a lot of 20-something-year-old kids would do. I would have done it. A lot of these guys last night do it. He seemed genuinely affected and emotional at the moment,
So
which I didn't mind. I thought it was actually kind of nice.
Yeah, and we'll get into this a little bit more in the next hour, but I would say for the Patriots, they are betting on him to be a great outlier success. Again, if he starts at tackle, the shortest wingspan of any tackle since 1999, if he's going to do that successfully. What you would say if you're arguing for Will Campbell is that players who become exceptions in the NFL are already exceptional as athletes and people. And I think that is the case here with Will Campbell. Now, that's the part we're going to get into a little bit more. The quotes, though, he delivered to us in the media after, like, I know some people are on the fence. I'm on the fence. I don't know what's going to happen. You have to love all of this.
Okay. Well, why don't you save it? Because we got Birders ready to join us here. We'll talk about your time and then some of the stuff that you got from Will Campbell last night. As Andrew Callahan, you were there covering the draft at Gillette Stadium. Burt Breer covers all things NFL. He's here with us now, and he'll join us next, just a couple of minutes after the headlines at the top here from Mark Dondero on Toucher and Hardy. Stay with us.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub. Boston 98.5, the Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Essential Sports Hub headline presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Patriots made it official last night when they selected LSU offensive tackle Will Campbell with the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft. Campbell gave up just 5 sacks in 3 seasons with the Bayou Bengals and will be asked to be the blindside protection for Drake May for the next decade. The Patriots, meanwhile, will go into day 2 with the 38th overall pick in the 2nd round, followed by the 69th and 77th picks in the 3rd round. Other headlines surrounding the draft include the Jaguars trading a haul to go up from 5 to 2 to draft Colorado's Travis Hunter. After selecting Abdul Carter with the 3rd overall pick, the New York Giants traded back into the 1st round to take Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart, and Colorado quarterback Shador Sanders did not get picked in the 1st round. Jason Tatum remains doubtful for the Celtics in advance of their Game 3 tonight, which will tip at 7 o'clock from Orlando. Pre-game with Graney and Max at 6:30. You can hear it right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Celtics up 2-0 in that series. Other NBA results from last night. The Knicks outlasted the Pistons 118-116. New York has a 2-1 series lead in that one. The Thunder erased a 29-point deficit to beat the Grizzlies in Memphis 114-108. Ja Morant left the game in the 2nd quarter after taking a hard fall. His status is uncertain. Thunder up 3-0 in that series. And the Clippers throttled the Nuggets last night 117-83. LA up 2-1 over Denver. Finally, Garrett Crochet gave up 4 earned runs in the first 2 innings as the Red Sox dropped the rubber game of their series with the Mariners by the count of 4-3. Alex Bregman did homer. Boston will begin a 3-game set with the Cleveland Guardians tonight. Tanner Houck will be on the mound for the Red Sox. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by the Albrecht Auto Group, Zoe's Auto Dealer. Get respect at Albrecht. Now 8 locations, including the all-new Subaru of Wakefield. Thousands of new and pre-owned vehicles, all at the right price at albrechtauto.com. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 30 minutes.
New England plays here.
Down the right side, there's a separation. Touchdown pass. Yes. Perfect dive from Drake May.
98.5 The Sports Hub. Fred describes himself in 7 words.
A guy in tights and a cape.
And Hardy with blunt honesty.
I am not known as Mr. Fun.
Toucher and Hardy continues on the Sports Hub.
So for me, this is what it's about. It's about working with players and helping them believe in something, and building a foundation and a program. And adding Will to our football team is that it's about a foundational piece. A young 21-year-old that's mature beyond his years. He's a leader. He's durable. He's physical.
It is Toucher and Hardy here with Andrew Callahan, Mark Dondero, and now Albert Breer joins us. Bert is the senior NFL reporter and lead content strategist for the MMQB. Bert, how many hours sleep you working with today?
It's not so bad. I actually stayed up here, so 4, maybe 4.5, something like that. Not horrible.
Yeah, you're fine. You're good.
I'm doing okay. Yeah.
But let's get into it right away here. The big story. First of all, with Cam Ward being selected number 1, because there was a lot of debate in the pregame last night, the pre-draft show, as to whether or not it would be him or Shador Sanders.
Was there really?
There was
on what show?
On ESPN, talking about how Shador should,
serious?
At the very least, be the first quarterback selected. I'm not making this up.
2 of 3 said Shador should go above Cam Ward.
All right, so like,
why did they do
really
that?
like? I mean, this has gotten to the point, and I'm going to be watching the talk shows this morning because I don't really watch them that much, but I think there could be some real entertainment, maybe unintentional entertainment happening there. I have been saying for how long, Hardy? For 3 months, that I have a hard time finding teams that view him as a first-round talent. Now, I put the caveat on that, which is that's the same way people talked about Bo Nix last year. And really, for Shador, it was about going and finding a fit somewhere. And there was no one who saw it that way. And I mean, I wrote it, I said it until I was blue in the face. And the closer we got to the draft, the stronger I felt about it. That at first I said that this was in January, February. I was like, I'm starting to think the gap between Cam Ward and Shador Sanders is bigger than the gap between Shador Sanders and the pack. And if you read what I wrote like my quarterback story, which I do every year, and I talk exclusively to coaches for that one. That one's not scouts. That's coaches who are digging into it, offensive coordinators, pass game coordinators, quarterbacks coaches. You just read it. You know what I mean? Like it says it's clear as day. They prefer Jackson Dart. And I'm not even talking about Cam Ward now. So this idea, half of me thinks it's not fair to Shador, because we just spent 2 years making him into something he wasn't, and that's not his fault really. Now he fed into it, but a huge part of the problem was he was going around to these teams and he was carrying himself and he was conducting his pre-draft process like he was assured of being a top 5 pick, and that was never the case. And so, I mean, I have stories of teams like him basically saying, I'm not a fit for you, which, look, there are certain guys, and I will say this, there are certain guys that can carry themselves, that can handle themselves because they know they're going in the first 3 or 4 picks. Abdul Carter only took 4 visits, turned down teams outside of the top 5. The Jaguars wanted to visit with him. He said no, right? The Raiders wanted to visit with him. He said no. Okay, so there are certain guys that can handle themselves that way.
Right.
For everyone else, it's about putting your best foot forward with everyone. And, the way Dion talked about it, and I like Dion personally. I worked with him at NFL Network. I think he's been such an important piece of the history of football in so many different ways. But, this whole thing about, I appreciate the idea, where he goes is more important than his draft position. That is true in the long run. But Dion was a top 5 pick. And the reality for most people who aren't that is you got to go find a job. And that's the way most draft prospects conduct their process. I'm going to go put my best foot forward with everybody. I mean, I know we're going to get into Will Campbell. I can tell you guys great stories about Will Campbell with other teams, right? Even though it looked like he was going 4th overall for a month now.
Yep.
He was still putting his best foot forward with other teams. And I just think, this thing got so out of control, just as far as the way we talked about him. And I don't know. I have a feeling in a year or two, there are some people in his camp that are going to look back at all of this with some regret.
And look, the number one guy in his camp, the number one figure in his life, the guy who's formed him as a person and a player is Dion, who almost a year ago was tweeting, my son's going to be a top 5 pick. I don't mind the bravado. If you believe it, that's how Dion's operated his whole entire life. But I would say that's the chief reason that conversation got shaped that way, because when he tweeted that, Shador Sanders was a quarterback for a 3-9 football team who had good stats, but, is throwing against Big 12 defenses that are like, yeah, we'll give you between the 20s, basically. So all those stats were inflated. And I look at this now, Bert, and flip it ahead, because to me, if you're a team who dealt with
Andrew,
those
let's stop
interviews...
there, though. The one thing I want to add to that, right, what you're saying, he was a really good quarterback in Colorado. I don't want to take anything away from what he accomplished, because that was a dead program, and he was a huge part of fixing it.
Right, and I think we all get that, but as a prospect, it's a very different conversation.
Player and prospect are two different things, and I think we've all seen college quarterbacks that just don't translate to the NFL the same way. You know who the all-time leading passer in the history of college football is?
Cole Brennan?
Timmy Chang?
Case Keenum. Okay,
Yeah.
Case Keenum's a pretty.
2 and 3.
Case Keenum's a pretty good NFL backup, right? And Case Keenum carved out a good career for himself and made a lot of money, right? But Case Keenum didn't have the physical ceiling to go, and that's why Cam Ward went 1st overall. By the way, Cam Ward wasn't outrageously better than at Miami last year than Shador Sanders was at Colorado. But what people saw with Cam Ward was, I can chase his ceiling. And unfortunately for Shador, the physical ceiling isn't there. So in that case, you have to go find fit. And Bo Nix, that's the same way people saw Bo Nix last year. Doesn't have the same physical ceiling that Jaden Daniels or Drake May or Caleb Williams has. And he found a place that was a perfect fit.
And he also bothered to interview well. That I don't think that can be overlooked, because anyone looking for a job, forget football, right? You're there because you're trying to sell yourself. He didn't feel compelled to do that. And if you're a team that's kind of on the fence between him and Jackson Dart, the guy who's going to bother to show up, do the easiest part of what will be his NFL career, being a prospect, sitting down, answering questions, talking football. If you don't want to do that, why am I going to trust you to do some more stuff when I empower you with a big contract? Which, again, is not to dismiss or disparage Shador as a person. I don't know him. Again, really good college player, but it was a poorly handled process with poor framework. I never saw it on the tape. Doesn't make me a genius or an expert, but here we are. I'm curious where you think he goes now.
Yeah,
because if your teams,
and before, I was just going to say before we move off of Shador and get to these other picks here in the first round last night, where does he end up going?
I don't know. I've seen some people connect him to the Raiders. Maybe I know there's there's the relationship there with Tom Brady. Maybe they roll the dice now. I don't think they saw him
at this point.
I don't think they saw him as a first round. I can tell you definitively, people in that building did not see him as a first round talent.
Definitely second round though. He'll go in the second round.
I mean,
it makes more sense for more teams now, of course, once you get into the second. But it's still you can make cases against it for virtually.
So Cleveland's
half the teams that might be in on him.
Cleveland's got the first pick in the second round. I've actually heard Kevin Stefanski likes Tyler Shuck, the quarterback from Louisville.
Oh man!
If Tyler Shuck, who's the 26-year-old guy who was in college for 7 years, who was Justin Herbert's backup for 2 years at Oregon, if you want to know how old he is, that's how old he is. He backed up Justin Herbert for 2 years at Oregon. I mean, it's like, imagine if he's the first pick of the second round, what that broadcast is going to look like tonight. But we built we built it into this. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I couldn't find, I heard things didn't go great between him and Dayball. I never believed he was going to the Giants. I've heard Dayball built a really strong relationship with Jackson Dart over the last month. There's natural connections there. Brian Dayball's mentor and coaching is Charlie Weiss, whose son is the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. Joe Judge is down there. Brian Dayball and Joe Judge worked together here for 4 years. So there's every reason in the world why that one made sense. The Steelers, I think it was a discussion for the Steelers. They don't have a second round pick because they sent their second round pick to Seattle for DK Metcalf. So Pittsburgh was the one team I looked at, and that's the team that's going to catch him. I just don't know where that team is now because obviously the Giants are off the board. The Titans are off the board. The Steelers don't pick in the second round. And now, part of it is, does he go to a team that kind of likes what it saw, that stashes him behind the starter and says, we're going to have you as a developmental guy? How does that even work? You know what I mean? What are you and that's part of the problem with all of this, is you have to be willing to, maybe I'm going to go somewhere and be Jordan Love, and sit for a couple of years. And maybe that's a great thing for me, but some teams might look at it and saying, what am I inviting here? What is this going to mean for my starter if he struggles? Are we going to have his dad on Twitter if, my starter has a tough November? That's all stuff that I don't think knowing Dion a little bit, I actually think Dion's intention was to be a part of this process. And then once his kid got drafted in the first round, which is what Archie Manning did. Remember, Archie Manning was involved with Eli and then how often did you hear from Archie again? Never, right? You never heard from Archie again.
Pull back and just let it happen.
And then it was Eli's show. When Eli got to the Giants, you never really heard from Archie much again. I thought it was going to sort of be like that. But, now if you're talking about him coming in as a backup and then maybe they got a chip on their shoulder about it, does that become a problem? You have to consider all of these things. And this is why, maybe that team that you met with that in March, I don't like that situation, right? I don't want to go there. So you walk into the interview you don't give a crap about anything in the combine, and that team's saying, well, we can't draft him now. And now that team that might have taken you in the second round.
Exactly. And now you would kill to be taken by that team so you don't end up embarrassed as a third-round pick when you thought maybe there's a chance you were going in the top 10.
Well, let's do this over-under real quick because we talked about some teams, and I think we haven't even talked Will Campbell. The Browns have picks at 33, which will be the first pick of the second round. 36. Yeah. The Raiders are at 37. The Saints are at 40. So those are 4 picks and 3 teams where, hypothetically, he could go.
Browns, I wouldn't totally rule it out because I think the owner with the Browns could get involved.
But under 40.5. Does he go before the 41st pick with all those teams laid out or after?
after. And I don't like. And here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Here's where draft position actually does matter.
It's a long fall then.
I agree with the premise Dion said that the place you go matters more than where you are in the order.
Sure.
But once you start to fall, right? And I think most football players would tell you this: the investment the team makes in you matters, because a second-round pick. You're going to see this with Jalen Polk. A second-round pick probably isn't getting cut for a couple of years. A third-round pick can get cut. And so, like, if you're starting to talk about, like, the investment being instead of the 24th pick, the 74th pick, and I'm not saying he's going to fall that far, but if it's the 74th pick, you know what happens? You have a crappy first year, and now all of a sudden
You're expendable.
You might, and there's a coaching change. All of a sudden, maybe you're out of there, and if you're out of there, now you're big in this big heap of players that's just trying to make it.
Yep.
And it's just, I don't know. Like, the way I look at this, like, I think, again, like, I think the overarching problem here is this guy's process was handled as if he was a top 5 lock.
Entitlement. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And to your original point,
to his dad's defense, his dad maybe didn't know any better because that's who he was.
And that's who he was. And also, for all of Dion's bravado and for all his talk, which he's been great at over the years, he's also got the credibility in the resume to back it up. So you may want to dismiss it as just Dion being Dion, but there is that sneaky fact that he is this huge part of the NFL history, a great player himself, and you have to believe in some part of you that he's not just talking about his son. He actually knows what he's talking about because he was so good, and he's now coaching at a high-ish level. And, all that stuff has to be taken into account. But maybe it is just a case of, like, the father going too much and saying too much and going too far.
But that's where you pick up the phone. I mean, look, I don't know Dion. So this is not to, again, dismiss or disparage a person that I don't know. We talk about process and who's leading that and who's in and around Shador giving him advice. The best scouts gather the best information. And when you're trying to determine where a player is going to go, how good he could be, your judgment alone is not good enough. You're trying to find out from people in the weight room, people that he works with, people that he played with, people that coached him. And so when you ask around the league from Dion's point of view, because he knows all that stuff at Colorado, you're asking, you can pick up the phone, call any GM that you want. And if they tell you what they told Burt, which certainly Burt got that information, so could Deion Sanders, then I think you pump the brakes and adjust. And they never did.
One of the most important things, and I can tell you this, I remember going back 15 years with Cam Newton and RG3 were drafted in back-to-back years. And you guys remember the perception of those two, right? Cam was this superstar who had no time for everybody, and RG3 was like a senator when they came out. But I remember talking to scouts who worked that area, that part of the country where Auburn is and where Baylor is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I knew that part of the country well. And what they would all tell you is Cam Newton, you could find somebody who was picking up towels after the game at Auburn who would have a good story about something Cam Newton did for him. And with RG3, it was the opposite. It was, if you couldn't help him, he wasn't going to help you. And, like, look at the way that turned out. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what you're talking about. It's the scout's job to know that stuff. And if you're giving them that, if you're handing them some of those answers on a silver platter without them even having to look for it, like, then that can be a problem for you. I mean, I'll say this, the last thing, like, on the Giants thing, I knew the minute they put Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in that room, there was no way. Can you imagine that? Like, you're going to put Shador Sanders in the room with Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. I said this to you guys the last month.
I felt the same way, not even with the personalities, but just with the fact that you've got a couple of guys, neither one of them is the answer, but there's so many reasons to believe that Shador Sanders isn't the answer. Why would you bring in a third guy who is not your answer at quarterback when you've already got two? So, just by that calculus alone, I didn't think it was going to happen. We'll do more on the first night of the draft, especially with the trade that happened near the top of the draft, what the Patriots did, all this coming up with Burt Breer here on Toucher and Hardy. Stay with us.
You're listening to Toucher and
Andrew Callahan, Mark Dondero, and Bert Breer joining us now, talking at round 1 of the NFL draft. Big trade at the top last night, which I did not see coming. Obviously, Travis Hunter knew it was going to happen. Jacksonville knew it was going to happen. How long has this been in the works? Did you have inklings of this? Did you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a couple of weeks, and the teams at the top have been kind of exploring a trade down, and I was skeptical it would happen just because I thought the Browns and Giants were going to drive too hard a bargain, and nobody was going to be willing to pay what it would take to go up. And the reason why is because once you got past Carter at 3, the value of those picks, like 4, 5, 6, 7, might have been like what the 15th pick was worth, or the 18th pick was worth, or the 20th pick was worth last year. Like, and I know we're going to get into Will Campbell, but, I think the range he would have been seen in last year as a left tackle would have been like where the Washington tackle was. Troy Fautanu went 20th overall to the Steelers, which doesn't mean he's a bad player. And again, I know we'll get into that, but if you're one of those teams, if you're the Jaguars or the Giants, then you're going to say, well, that's not like going down 3 picks. That's like going down 12 picks or 15 picks for us from a value standpoint. And so they were going to charge a quarterback premium for it, and they got the premium. It's not quite what you would pay to go get a quarterback, but
it's close.
It's close. I mean, you got the current year 1, the current year 2, and next year's 1, which that's a massive, massive haul. And the Browns did well on that trade based on the fact that there wasn't a quarterback there that they were selling off at number 2.
I mean, it's a lot to look at, but when you look at the player, and if you've got him identified as the guy who is going to be that both sides of the ball guy, and he says he wants to do it, and there was a lot of debate last night about how much he would be able to play on both sides, percentage of snaps, offense versus defense, how much is he going to be out there? If he's even out there a fraction of what they're talking about last night, and he's not just a contributor, but a real standout player on both sides of the ball, of course you give up all that stuff to get that guy if you think it's going to help you immediately, as they do in Jacksonville.
The 2 other things that I had to consider here. Number 1 is where those Jacksonville guys came from, which is the Rams. And the Rams have always been willing to be aggressive with picks for players they want. They identify somebody they want. Now, it's generally been for veteran players, but in this case, you look at it as maybe this is a unicorn. Maybe this guy is different. The counter to that argument is, are they really that close? And do they really – because this is the sort of move that you would make when you're right there. Like, I think you can compare this sort of like to the Julio Jones trade when the and it's obviously different because the Falcons went way up. But when the Falcons did that, it was we are right on the precipice. We are close. They had been in the playoffs, I think, 3 out of 4 years, something like that, whatever it was. And they felt like they were right on the doorstep of competing for a championship. And that's, that's the one question with Jacksonville. It's like, okay, like now you've kind of killed your base of picks. You're not picking again until the 3rd round. You don't have a lot of other ways to improve. So is this guy good enough to put you over the top where you've made the playoffs, once in the last decade? I think it's longer than that, but
you were 4-13 last year.
Right, you were 4-13 last year, which is why you're drafting there in the first place. So it's risky. I can't wait to watch the guy play because we've never seen anything quite like this, and I can't wait to see what he becomes. But
the notion is that he'll get in and immediately start learning the offense, and I'm gonna exaggerate this, but his feeling and the feeling for some is that defensively, he can just go out there and play.
I don't believe that.
If he's in man coverage, you can just put him out there and he'll be able to. But the real work needs to be put in on the offense.
That's not true. I think it's the.
We've done this before.
I think it's the opposite. I mean,
we did this like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I think it's. I think it's the absolute reverse. Like,
really?
No, at 100%. 100%. Like what they did at Colorado, his meeting time, his practice time was spent on defense. And then they had packages in for him in offense, and there were times when they were signaling routes into him from the sideline.
Huh.
So, and the reason why is because in offense you're dictating to the defense. So you can draw that up any way you want.
If Zoe were here, he'd lose his mind right now.
Well,
you could use the word dictating.
What he would say is you need chemistry offensively playing receiver with the quarterback.
And that's true.
He
but
had
you can
worked,
get that.
Hold on. He had worked with Shador for years, going back to Jackson State.
Yeah.
Had this first year at Colorado. Last season was his third with Shador. That chemistry had been established. They're running a simplified spread offense. All of those, even the different hash marks dictate the field, the wide side of the field, much wider than it will be in the NFL. I think you can have him come in and play whether it's man coverage or you're going to be in the cloud, which is short zone over towards the sideline, maybe a deep half. You're doubling. Like, those are easier things. If you're just in our dime package, that's all you have to learn. And there's a little bit of coordination and calls and checks that you're making with the safety in the corner. The big picture thing you're asserting about the offense dictates to the defense is true, but the timing involved and the adjustments and the reads that you're making on the fly in these offenses are much more complex. He's never worked with Trevor Lawrence. And what we heard from Gladstone last night was he's going to play receiver, and then we'll dabble with him on defense. But I look at their depth chart, and I'm like, you've already got Brian Thomas, who's a huge hit, Gabe Davis, whatever, number 2, De'Ami Brown, Parker Washington, they really like out of the slot. I might put him at full-time corner and dabble at receiver, but it sounds like they're doing the opposite because it takes a lot more mental load to learn with your quarterback in the offense and all of the adjustments and the hot reads.
I think I disagree. I just think, like, defensively, if you're not studying what an offense is going to do to you during the week, and you don't have command of what it, like, when the offense changes the picture on you on the fly and you're out there and the coach can't fix it for you, right? And they're putting you in a bind because the offense's job is to put you in conflict. And offensive coaches are going to know if you haven't been studying in the meeting room all week, right? They're going to be able to find ways to take advantage of you, and they're going to find ways to exploit you, and they're going to find ways to put you in a bad spot. Whereas, like, if offensively, again, like, you can game that up. You can build packages in, and he was successful on offense having routes signaled into him. I mean, there's a reason why, if you look at these guys over the years, whether it's Chris Campbell at Ohio State, Charles Woodson at Michigan, Champ Bailey at Georgia, when those guys went both ways in college, they all majored on defense. And there's a reason why Colorado allotted all of their time with him on defense, because when you get into an actual game situation, and we're not talking about building, right? Because I know what you're saying. It's like you got to build chemistry. You got to build the knowledge. He's got to have the library in his head of the different things that you're going to do out there. And, like, defensively, if, like, there are too many things that they can do to you, and there are too many things they can do to exploit you and put you on an island and turn you into a liability. I just think you have to, on a week-to-week basis, it's really hard to play defense in the NFL, especially at a position in the secondary, if you don't have a really good working knowledge of what they're trying to do.
When you talk about conflict, though, what that means is to have to make you make a choice. If we're playing man coverage, for example, and you're only in the dime package, which is to say you're going to face pass 90% of the time, the conflict's eliminated. I don't need to make a read of whether this is run or pass. If you're involved on the outside, you're just forced. Like, you talk to corners, and it's very simple. Like, that is the easiest position to master defensively in the NFL, and the way I think they're going to play in those situations. So I think when they put him at receiver, it is a lot more involved from not only just the different reads and the timing, but also you're involved in the run game 100% of the time. Like, I think if you put him in that dime package because you're just looking at the man across from you, and they can motion and they can bunch, but there's not as much conflict. I've got this guy. And if we're going to switch, great, that's a call. But when you're just within that one package on defense, the conflict you're talking about is not really involved at that position. If it was linebacker or safety where you're being read, that's true. Not a corner.
I'll give you like an example. Like, so their defensive coordinator is coming from Miami, and he worked for Anthony Weaver, who runs the Ravens defense. The Ravens defense is, like, predicated on being able to adjust on the fly to what the offense is doing. If they do it the way you're talking about it, you've got one player limiting what you're able to do defensively. You have one player out there who you are catering to one player, which is limiting what you're able to do from a scheme-wise, which limits what you're able to do to combat what the offense is trying to do to you. I just think...
Well, what I'm saying is that's already limited by the situation. You're not playing dime on 1st and 10, right? Like, that's my point, is when you put him in a hyper-specific situation it's 4th, 3rd and long, 3rd and medium.
So, like, this is, like, if you want to go back to what the Ravens did, this goes back to, like, Eric Weddle. And when Eric Weddle was there, what they did under Wink Martindale, and this is the way a lot of defenses work now, is like they are not showing you what they're doing. They're going to adjust to certain things out there. They've got a quarterback out there. Javon Holland was doing this for Miami last year at safety, and they're adjusting to what the offense is throwing at them on the fly. And they're adjusting so they can get a picture of what the offense is trying to do to them. It's just, again, like I think I totally get what you're saying. I think offensive football, on a week-to-week basis, it is easier to have a package player on offense than it is on defense.
All right.
I just that's the way I see it, and I think that's the way. I would say 90% of the teams I talked to said that's the way they would have done it, is they would have started him on defense and worked him out on offense.
How happy is he that he's going to be in Jacksonville as opposed to Cleveland?
Oh, a million times more. And not even just for the weather. How about the fishing? Because this is a kid who only plays football and fishes for bass.
300-something miles from where he's from.
Yeah. I mean, and he's known for presumably a couple of weeks, and it seems like he was, he's
like a country kid too.
Yeah,
so there's all of that.
Yeah. I oddly feel happy for him. What difference does it make to me where Travis Hunter ends up? But for like somebody we haven't seen this in a long time. It's kind of a special circumstance. I dare I say he deserves something better than to be thrown into Cleveland, and God knows what they're going to be doing for the next several years. And to think that he might be wasted there would be a shame. And as Andrew pointed out this morning, we were talking before we got on the air, it's like, hey man, you got like a reason to watch random Jacksonville games now this year. When's the last time you really had that? Yeah. That'll be it at any point in the game. Oh, turn it on. See if Hunter's out there.
It was
offense or defense.
An NBA trade that goes, this is going to fundamentally change our franchise, and we're going to give up such a haul to get like a star where they only live in the NBA, picks 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4. Right. Certainly not this draft at 5. We go up and make it. I love that. And now that changes legitimately how you watch the Jaguars, how they can play, everything they can do, their identity.
You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.
Well, that's exactly what they're going to have. 2 things to get to, Bert, before you leave. Number one, the deafening silence of the phones not ringing at Gillette Stadium yesterday as they got ready for their 4th overall pick. And Andrew wants to talk specifically about another trade in the first round yesterday. So we'll do both of those things after the headlines here with Mark Dondero on Toucher and Hardy.
Sports Hub Headlines, presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Patriots made it official last night when they selected LSU offensive tackle Will Campbell with the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft. Campbell gave up just 5 sacks.
seldom right and never wrong.
Right here. Is that Dutcher or is that Hardy?
I know, looks like a poodle. It's an effing poodle, dumbass.
The Sports Hub.
Will Campbell, 4th overall, the left tackle out of LSU, and you were at Gillette Stadium last night, Andrew. You mentioned that there was let's just say a lack of buzz leading up to that pick. It was predetermined, to say the least.
Yes, Patriots knew last week, as we heard from Mike Vrabel, we're going to take Will Campbell, not just because Will Campbell put Mike Vrabel on his ass in a workout that they flew down to Louisiana for.
We hope there's more to it. We hope there's more to it than that.
Yes, but they loved him all along, the person and the player. I think it was a matter of getting as close as you could as possible to consensus. Obviously, they did. And then you hear Mike talk about Will Campbell, and it's clear that this is a really important pick to them, not just because it's number 4 overall. This is the first pick of the Mike Vrabel era. This is a player who's going to be on the roster, help you get where you want to go, obviously, on the field, but building not only just in terms of the roster, but the culture. And they loved everything about him. And the fact that he just turned 21 and is already dependable and a leader and relentless and all the things that, honestly, Mike was as a player, so he's got short arms. They fell in love. And when you fall in love, you don't think twice. And they didn't over the last 10 days or so.
You think they were right to fall in love with him?
There are a ton of little stories from the last 3 months that I think illustrate that. One, and I told this last night on TV, was he comes in for his 30 visit. This is the kind of kid he is, right? So he comes in for his 30 visit, and so Vrabel brings him in the room, and there's coaches, scouts in there, and has the coaches and scouts go out and go around and introduce themselves and say something about themselves. And Mike then said, all right, Will, you got all that? And Will then went around and named every one of the guys and what they'd said. He had the recall to do that in the moment, which I think, was, again, we were just talking about this with Shador, it's a kid who's conscientious and showing that he wants to be there. And I know from having talked to some people around Will that the idea of playing for the Patriots really appealed to him, which I'm sure appealed to the Patriots, right? Where he loved the history of the team. He liked the idea of being able to resurrect a broken brand, and over time getting to know Vrabel one-on-one. And there was a ton of one-on-one work they did. That was not the only time that Vrabel traveled to go see Will Campbell somewhere. Vrabel and Will got to know each other very, very well over the course of the last 3 weeks. I can give you one more story on Will if you want it from another team, and I thought this was really interesting. The Jaguars aren't doing 30 visits, right? Because the Rams don't do them. You guys know about that, right? I'm sure you've heard that, Andrew, right? So, Will wanted to set up some visits with the Jaguars. You guys know who the Jaguars EVP is. It's Tony Baselli, the Hall of Fame tackle. Mm-hmm. It's Will's position, right? So, Will calls the Jaguars and says, well, I'd really, we'd really like to come out to visit. And no, we're going to do we're going to do calls with you. Right. So Baselli, they set up calls with Baselli and a couple other people in the organization. So he gets on the phone with Baselli and over the course of the conversation, Will says, you know what, man, I'm going to be in Jacksonville a couple times over the next month or so. So I'd love to just kind of get lunch with you and pick your brain. And, and Tony just says to him, well, look, Will, the reason we don't have guys out here is we just don't want to be biased or have somebody be able to come in and tip the scales. We want to look at all of you guys equally. So we appreciate the sentiment that you want to come and visit with me. But we just want to kind of keep to our process here. Fine. So then he talks to somebody else in the organization and said, I heard you're going to be out in Jacksonville. I heard you're going to be out in Jacksonville over the next month. When are you coming out here? And he says, I'm going to come clean with you. That was Tony Baselli I was talking to. I just wanted to go meet him. So he was going to fly himself to Jacksonville for the opportunity to sit down with Tony Baselli because, of course, he wanted to impress a team that's picking on the top, but also just because he wanted to pick the brain of a guy who's a legend at his position. So that's the type of kid that you're getting, and I think that's part of how you win him over. And I do think to some degree, and Andrew, I think this is what you're getting at, you want your first pick if you're a first-year head coach to represent something and symbolize what you're looking for in players, because everybody's looking who you're paying, who you're picking, right? Everybody else in that locker room is paying attention. What do they reward here now? And I think Will Campbell represents all of that perfectly.
Just real quick, Bert, from a logistical perspective, do you know, did the Patriots measure his arms? Like, did they measure his arms themselves, or was it just pro day combine?
They have a tailor.
They do that themselves, right?
It's a tailor.
I thought I'd escaped. I thought we were done.
It's not. I will say this just real quick. It's not a non-issue. Okay, like I think that's the thing. Like, it's not just his arm length; it's also his shoulder. He has narrow shoulders for a tackle. The wingspan's an issue, and it did come up on tape. Like there's a reel that you can look. The Texas A&M game. Texas A&M's got all these mutant defensive linemen.
Arkansas, South Carolina.
Yeah, so like you see with the long-armed guys, it's not just getting around somebody. It's also those guys could get their hands into his chest and control him a little bit. And he was able to manage it to a large degree, but you can see it. Like their hands are getting into his chest. He can't keep them off of him. And the thought is, like, when you get to the NFL now, you're going to be dealing with people who are even bigger and even stronger and even longer. And is that going to become more of a problem? Here's my thing about that, though. If the result here is he stops the bleeding, puts out the fire that you've been trying to put out for 7 years at left tackle for the next year or two, and then eventually he becomes an all-pro guard, that's not a horrible result. It really isn't. And I know everybody's hung up on the idea of taking a guard 4th overall if that's what he becomes. But look at what the Eagles have done at guard. Look at what the Chiefs have done at guard. Those two teams have the 2 highest paid guards in the history of football. I think they're doing pretty good. So like I just look at it like it's not ideal, but what else were you going to do? You're getting a really good player.
So we may go a little bit late here, but I know you wanted to touch on the other swap that was made in the first round last night, Andrew.
Yeah, so the Falcons come up after taking a pass rusher and is the only team in the league that has not had a player with more than 7 sacks since 2020. Maybe you need 2 pass rushers. Okay. Bert, do you trade a future first to get to the 26th pick and one of the worst first rounds? And granted, the net of this trade was not just here's an extra first to the Rams who went back 20 spots. The net was around like a high 3rd round pick, but the Rams have now an extra first round pick from a Falcons team that's going to be starting a 2nd-year quarterback without a lot of great infrastructure, and the Falcons got an extra pass rusher in James Pierce at 26.
So here's like I think what happened here is like you sort of become, it's like the way you grade the players and the way you look at them. James Pierce was going to be their pick at 15. They didn't think Jalen Walker would be there. And so, like, I think this was sort of their way of saying, we have 2 guys that we view as top 10 players in the entire class now. And that's why they do it. It's a lot, though. I mean, a 2 and a 1.
It's insane.
It's a lot. And if I'm the Rams, like, I know the Rams. So I think the Rams would have taken Ted McMillan if he had fallen there. I think they would have taken Emeka Egbuka if he had fallen there. I think they would have maybe taken Amarian Hampton if he had fallen to them. I think Henderson's probably a consideration for them. But, when somebody's coming with that, like we can make it work with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and Kyron Williams and not add to that group if it means getting a first-round pick next year. But again, this is, what's interesting is it's another guy with Rams background who's taking this big swing. We talked about Gladstone and Cohen in Jacksonville. Who's the coach in Atlanta?
Yeah, it's Raheem.
It's Raheem. So it's another big swing.
Was this his call, though? Because Fontenot's obviously the GM still won the power struggle that wasn't with Bill.
They both. I think Raheem has some juice there. And look, like this is part of – I would even argue this is part of the cost of taking a quarterback last year. That you would have taken a defensive player if it hadn't been a quarterback. And then you swing on Matthew Judon in the summer. That 3rd-round pick looks like it didn't – like that's not great value, right? Like
No, it's the best move Elliott Wolf's made here by a mile, which by extension makes it one of the worst for Terry Fontenot.
Right. And then you have to – then you're spending on Leonard Floyd and in the offseason, and they've just had to do so many things to try to fix this. And so – again, like I'd almost say the same thing I said about them at quarterback. Like if Michael Penix hits, no one cares that they have Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins on the roster together, right? If Michael Penix winds up being their quarterback for the next 15 years, the rest doesn't matter. Like no one remembers how the Chiefs acquired Patrick Mahomes. No one, like, does anybody remember? Does anybody look back at that and be like, wow, that was a lot? No. So if you get that right, then it doesn't matter. I'd say the same thing here. Like, if James Pierce and Jalen Walker wind up becoming top 15 pass rushers in the league, now you've got both of them. Not only did you fix the problem, but you've turned a weakness into a strength in one fell swoop, then maybe you look at it differently. But that's a narrow path to walk. You know what I mean?
It
like
is, 'cause
it has to be home run. And Pierce has got
this worked because we have no idea how Pierce is going to work. And I would
and
argue
Pierce has got huge character issues.
You moved right. So if you're going to make a haul and then declare this is the guy that we want, we're going to give up all this for you, and he comes in being like, I'm a made guy, which you are as a first round pick, but with character issues, that's not the guy I want.
Yeah.
And you need cost controlled elite players, right? Which you could argue Pierce was, but they did this to move up 20 spots and then lose the first-round pick next year. I want that first-round pick next year if I've got the quarterback like you're talking about, Michael Penix, still in a cheap rookie contract. And the Falcons go, F them picks, F everything.
To blow that up on that year of Penix's progression, yeah, it's a lot. All right, Bert, you had a long night. You're going to have a long weekend. Appreciate you being here, as always.
Thanks for having me, guys.
There's another draft that's been going on this week. And we have
even bigger. Some say.
We have some undrafted free agents. Are you familiar with this?
No. Should I listen?
What is this? You absolutely. Thank you. This is the Sports Hub deathmatch draft, where we have been selecting combatants in a.
So is this like 98 Mile?
No, there's no rapping involved.
Well, but I mean, is the concept the same though?
The concept is that we've all been doing this for a long time together, and at some point things are going to break bad. And when it breaks bad, who do you want?
Couldn't you argue that's already sorry?
Yes, you could argue it happened in the first week.
No one's here to defend themselves.
There's a reason why Felger and Maz are not on the same team.
Yeah.
They were drafted onto different teams in a battle to the death. Who will be the once formerly undrafted free agents who get drafted in our final round today? We'll find out after the headlines here on Toucher and Hart.
champion Boston Celtics are looking for number 19.
Tatum pull it out.
Hear every playoff game right here. Your home for Boston Celtics basketball. WBC FM and HD1 Boston 98.5. The Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Essential Sports Hub headline presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Patriots made it official last night when they selected LSU offensive tackle Will Campbell with the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft. Campbell gave up just 5 sacks in 3 seasons with the Bayou Bengals and will be asked to be the blindside protection for Drake May for the next decade plus-ish. The Patriots, meanwhile, will go into day 2 of the draft with the 38th overall pick in the 2nd round, followed by the 69th and 77th picks in the 3rd round. Other headlines surrounding the draft include the Jaguars trading a haul to go up from 5 to 2 to draft Colorado's Travis Hunter. After selecting Abdul Carter with the 3rd overall pick in the draft, the New York Giants traded back into the 1st round to select Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. And Colorado quarterback Shador Sanders did not get picked in the 1st round and is still on the board. Jason Tatum remains doubtful for the Celtics in advance of their Game 3 tonight in Orlando. That'll tip at 7 o'clock. Pre-game set for 6:30 with Grandy and Max. You can hear that on 98.5, the Sports Hub right here. Celtics have 2-zip in the series. Other NBA results from last night. The Knicks outlasted the Pistons 118-116. New York up 2-1. The Thunder erased a 29-point deficit to beat the Grizzlies in Memphis 114-108. Ja Morant, he left that game in the 2nd quarter, though. After taking a hard fall, his status remains uncertain. Thunder up 3-zip in the series. And the Clippers throttled the Nuggets 117-83. I beg your pardon. The Clippers now up 2-1 in the series. Finally, Garrett Crochet gave up 4 earned runs in the first 2 innings as the Red Sox dropped the rubber game of their series with the Mariners on Thursday by the count of 4-3. Alex Bregman did hit a home run. Boston will now begin a 3-game set in Cleveland. Begins tonight. Tanner Houck will get the ball for the Sox. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by the Prime Rib Dinner at the 99. Available every Friday after 4 p.m. all day Saturday and Sunday. 16 ounces of slow-roasted USDA choice prime rib with 2 sides. You gotta love the 9s. I'm Mark Dundale for Boston's Home for Sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 30 minutes.
Boston plays here.
Through the slot. Close shot. Save. Rebound. Scored.
98.5 The Sports Hub. Hey, listen, if you've got to go, we understand, but make sure you bring the Sports Hub app with you so you can hear more of Todger and Hardy.
That's what I want on my tombstone.
On the Sports.
Let him slip this far. You effed up. That's how this goes. I don't care about the space now in the environment. Dondero is a 1st, 2nd round pick at worst in this death match. Put him on my team. This is like having Mookie Betts in the 7 hole. I don't know what you guys did.
Stop that. You are angry, Mark. You've got anger. I think
I was ready to crush the Red Sox.
Exactly. Sometimes one wonders, one being me and others, draft analysts, is this a manufactured rage? Are you going to be able to summon it? Are you actually going to be able to act upon it when faced with a life and death situation?
Again, motivation. Typically, I'm not a fighter, but if I had to get to that level, I feel like I could. And I do.
You are of a slight build.
I'm a slight build.
What are you? 5'8"? I'm
5'10".
You're 5'10".
I just had my physical 5'10".
You're 5'10".
She measured me at 5'10". What do you want me to do? I literally just had the
Was
physical.
it your girlfriend or wife? Was it someone who owes you a favor? You're 5'10".
Sure. Okay.
Hold on.
I don't care.
Hold on a second.
No, you should care. You should be mad.
I just want to stand side by side with you for a moment.
Kilometers.
Andrew, you go ahead and fill.
Okay, let me go down the board of free agents. Okay. We have Chris Gasper, who, all due respect, if we said he was full of rage, would probably want to say I'm full of umbrage and indignation and temper and wrath instead of rage. Alex Barth, love him. He's just going to be thinking about draft prospects in 2027. Of no use to me whatsoever in the death match. Cattles, there's rage in there. We could draw that out of him. Adam 12, very well-natured guy, but I got to say, and this goes for Dondero too, I think, folks are underrating the dad strength, which is also something that I don't have in there.
12 also unselected at this point. So Dondero and I just stood side by side in front of Ryan Beaton. And how much taller would you say I am than Mark Dondero?
I'd say by like an inch, maybe like an inch and a half.
Okay. All right. I call myself 5'11". I'm not quite 5'11". Okay?
Okay.
I'm just not very good with the different measurements.
Is it possible you're not quite 5'10", but you're going to say you're 5'10"?
So, sure.
Is it that's fair?
I'm just telling you, at the physical on March 28th, they measured me 5'10". I just was there.
In socks?
Socks.
Wow.
Did you slip the nurse a 20?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just telling you what happened.
What did the scale read? I'm going to say 158.
163.
Okay. So,
but I'm not.
You know what?
Weak.
Here's the thing. If
I never said you were weak. I said you're of slight build, and I tell you what, you'd be wrestling Brian Shute. You'd be in the toughest weight class in Vision Quest. You'd be going up against Loudon Swain.
Oh, that makes him feel better.
Are you kidding? What? Vision Quest? You've never seen Vision Quest? That's the toughest division there is to wrestle in, according to Vision Quest and Loudon Swain.
Good for Vision Quest.
Matthew Modine in Vision Quest going up against Brian Shute. It's one of the great sports stories of all time.
Number one, it's Will Campbell Day, which means number two, we should be measuring wingspan, not height.
Let's do no more arm length talk, at least for the rest of the day.
Sounds like Hardy's scared.
All right, so you're going with Mark Dondero.
Yes.
All right?
Yes. Easy pick.
Fine.
Hardy's he's putting way too much on physical attributes on his draft. That's my opinion.
I have no problems with your physical attributes.
It's a physical fight.
It's a physical fight, but there's more to it than just physical.
It's not a chess match.
I get that.
So this is the time where I would say Mark would kick Hardy's ass in a fight. I don't need to say the would. If I just let this conversation keep going, it might actually happen in front of me. We get to find out. Keep poking the bear. Keep poking my bear.
Hey, whatever happens, it happens. All I got to say, all I got to say is, light screen, kid. Go ahead. Take your best shot. Ryan Johnston had the initial second overall pick. That was taken over by Mark Dondero. So Ryan Johnston took Scott Zolak. A lot of people thought he wouldn't be there for the second overall pick. He was.
Yeah, wild move.
He was.
By Holly.
So he went Zolak, Tony Maserati, John Wallik, as only the three on-air people from the first three shows of the day were available on day one. And then yesterday, Mark Dondero, and again, this is all the defense mechanism for who he decided to pick. He went Kendra Middleton, Tyler Milliken, Ryan Beaton. Again, it's not all about the physical strength and attributes. It's about what, Mark?
I think Beaton is a little psycho, and I like that.
Plus, he's building a young core that can grow up together. Me, Kendra Middleton.
There you go.
Okay.
I told you, Kendra has some
now
training.
Ryan chiming in to defend
Kendra has some training, and I think Milliken would be, if I could motivate him via the Red Sox, the vehicle that is the Boston Red Sox, I feel like I could get him into a fighting state.
Okay, you have one more pick available to you right now.
And my pick is Alex Barth. I think Barth has some edge to him. Okay, I like some edginess to him. I feel like he can be a little angry if he he'll come in and surprise you a little bit. Surprise you a little sneak attack. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something there, and I feel like I could build off of that.
There is something sneaky about the kid.
Something there.
I can't quite put my finger on it.
Tenacity there.
I tell you what, I like your 7th pick better than I like your 4, 5, and 6 picks combined. Okay?
All right.
So I'll give you Barth right there. That leaves me and my team of Big Jim Murray, Tim McCone, who I also, again, I have to say, as soon as I made the selection live on the air, McCone texted me to say, terrible pick, change it.
Yes, it was a spooky night.
His Monster Mash performance alone should have been enough to make him drop way, way down on everyone's board. Michael Felger, and then, man, did I make up for it in day 2. I had a day 2 like you read about. Tom T-Bone Morgan, who was available there, Leroy Irvin, and Dan Lifshatz. I mean, you're just talking about size.
It's a great bench.
Strength. You've got some youthfulness in there. You've got some real edge. And you got some crazy. I love it. It's a deep, deep team. A lot of people were wondering why Matt McCarthy wasn't taken. He's got the reach. He's got the anger at the Red Sox. I don't know that he has anger anywhere else, though. I'm going to go back to a guy that got mentioned earlier and a guy who's got a little quiet. I think he's got a little something there. I'm going with Skaz.
Skaz,
producer for Joe Murray. And I think he's got to put up a lot with the Joe Show at night. And I think he's ready probably to channel some of that aggression. And I'm going to make him my 7th and final pick of this exercise. And I'm going with Skaz. So that's it. Now we have the combatants set. This is a tough spot for you, Andrew Callahan, because you've had, someone else essentially assembling this team for you.
I'm going to call Holly in the break and just ask, do we get into the liquor that early on a Wednesday or a Thursday assembling this team? Zoe was the number 1 pick, obviously.
Beatles saved him from getting his ass kicked years ago. It was
really
at some bowling alley.
He looked at somebody. Beatle looked at somebody.
It was on the Cambridge-Arlington line. I don't know what they were doing there. We never got the full story, but one or two guys were drunk and going after Holly, and Beatle shut it down and prevented him from getting his ass kicked. And I think he was not only grateful but impressed with Beatle's physical presence in that moment.
All right, now I get it a little bit.
Okay,
I get it.
You can't forgive him for taking me though. I mean, that is just
no. I don't know what to do with half my team. You and Fred are going to be arguing about something of no use to me. But that's why we drafted Dondero, and I'll coach from the sidelines, and we'll make it work.
The fact that he's got Fred in there, you got to catch Fred at the right moment, the right mix of chemicals, swirling around in his body at that one particular instant.
Just going to be whispering, Jordan.
Exactly. He'll go off on a tangent. The fight will be going on, and he'll be raging at something he sees on his Instagram.
He's just going to be seeing not red, but Carolina blue.
That's
just
right.
lost in a haze of fury.
Cedric Maxwell will have no opinion on this death match, so we won't ask him about it, but we'll ask him about everything else regarding your Boston Celtics when he talks to us next here on Toucher and Hardy.
I don't think nothing has changed. Whatever it takes every single night, you leave it out there. And
don't worry about it.
What company?
Cedric Maxwell is the Celtics color analyst on the 98.5 The Sports Hub Celtics Radio Network, and Boston Celtics playoff coverage on 98.5 The Sports Hub is presented by Charles D. Sheehy. For over 70 years, Charles D. Sheehy has been your local leader for pipes, valves, and fittings. CDS can offer you the solutions needed to keep your project moving. We will have some James Taylor at the end for you, Max. Is that okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you for joining us here this morning. Celtics off to a 2-0 lead in their best-of-7 series with Orlando. Joe Mazzulla was asked yesterday, or I believe on Zolak and Bertrand, whether he felt this was a commanding lead, as the phrase often gets turned around. I don't think that phrase probably gets put into use until you're up 3-0, but 2-0 against anybody has got to feel pretty good. Maybe not commanding, but how do you feel about their lead right now in the series, Max?
Well, I like the way they're playing. And if you're Orlando, you'd have to be disappointed because the first game, the 3 stars for the Boston Celtics really didn't play that well. The second game, the Celtics win. Their best player doesn't play in that game. And then Jaylen Brown takes over. There are a lot of, and it's starting to get more chippy. And I think if you're the Celtics right now, you like the fact that it's starting to get a little bit more chippy. Caldwell Pope, he intentionally ran and tripped Al Horford. And he was also involved in the Jason Tatum thing when he fell on his wrist. So there's some things going on in the series. To me, if I was a Celtic fan, I would be very happy with the way it's going and being up 2-0.
Different people had essentially the same reaction to that first foul that Caldwell Pope is, I guess, now infamous for in this series, the one on Jason Tatum. And while I understand that, you played in a much different era, Max, I grew up watching you and, players of a different era. It's not that era anymore. And to go after, a player in the air, not playing the ball, just grabbing the arm, the outrage that they were looking at this for a flagrant, I thought was unfounded. I'm like, if you can't look at this for a flagrant in 2025 in the NBA, I don't know what you're watching. Whether it should have been assessed that way or not is a different conversation, but at the very least, you got to look at it. And I thought it was worthy of both the looking at and, yes, even the flagrant call being made on that. That was not typical of what you see in the NBA. At least I didn't think so.
I totally agree. I think that if you look at it now in the NBA, obviously that wouldn't have been a foul during my era. Everybody said play on. Matter of fact, I talked to the head coach of Orlando just before the game, and he said, man, he talking about these fouls. I saw you play. I saw this Celtic City thing. Man, that was bull. If they think that was a foul, these guys should have played during that era. So it's really different. I understand that. I'm not the old man, complaining back and forth. I am the old man complaining right now about Celtic City, though. I'm pretty pissed about that. But, you guys can ask me, what you want. But how can you talk about me in that Celtic City edition and all of a sudden I'm not the Finals MVP? Or you look down at the library right now, there's a big quote in the library of saying, climb on my back. But none of that was done in Celtic City, to the point that when we saw the premiere of Celtic City with Wick and, some of the head people with the Celtics, he happened to mention after it was over, said, hey, by the way, Cedric Maxwell was a Finals MVP that year. So not too happy with the way I've been portrayed in this. And all those people right now saying, get over it, you're jealous. I'm not damn it jealous. I'm just telling you facts.
Well, for full disclosure, Max, I haven't seen the whole thing yet, but do you think it was intentional? You think it was just bad storytelling? Why do you think they chose to go that route?
It's just really strange, considering that if you're telling a story like that, don't you tell all the best parts? Don't you talk about my 7th game against the Lakers in '84? Don't you talk about that? So I don't know. I'm not. I don't know the people who did it. I know a couple of people who did the story, but for the most part, I just don't understand it. And frankly, I don't really appreciate it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do an opt-in on this where maybe Gary Washburn talking about exactly the facts I'm mentioning to you guys now.
Well, Max, I want to ask you about Tatum in a second, but my last one here in Celtic City, because I had no idea you felt this way. I've not caught up on this, but Bill Simmons is the executive producer along with Connor Shell. Bill is around all the time. I don't know if you know him personally. You just said you didn't know. Do you have a relationship with them? Like, that feels like a relationship or a connection that should at least be made if you don't have one through ownership or other people within the team, given his relationship and the fact that, he's the one who made this and is maybe the most famous Celtics fan there is.
Well, I know Bill, and I don't know. I don't know. I just didn't feel like I was put in the right light. Me eating French fries when I was hurt. You put that in the storyline. He has to feel better if the Celtics are going to win the championship. Yeah, I don't know what the take was about that, and I know the story wasn't about me, but again, it was about me in the fact that the prominent role I played during that time. You can like me, you can hate me, you can do whatever you want to. But just tell the damn facts, that's all.
Respect that. Jason Tatum listed as doubtful. Joe described him as day-to-day, severe bone bruise. They give you the call, Max. Do you play him here in Game 3 tonight?
You know what? I may mention this on the air the other day. I was watching Jason Tatum when he didn't play in Game 2. And I was mentioning it to Sean. I was like, why is he giving people high fives right now with his right hand? the one that's bruised up. That's not a good look. I don't care how that goes, but you're high fiving people with like this hand right here is wrapped up. Give him the left hand. So if you're asking me about playing him, you're up 2-0. If you're the Celtics right now, maybe you just try to get away with one more game until he's feeling better. But what game are you going to play him in? I think that's the big thing. So I think the question mark now is pain tolerance. How will affect this team going forward? But they chose to roll the dice and not play him and get one of the most outstanding games we've seen from Jaylen Brown. He was absolutely sensational, and nobody talks enough about that, considering the way he really dominated that game. And Pablo was really good for Orlando, but Brown was sensational.
We're talking to Cedric Maxwell here on Toucher and Hardy. And just for those that don't know, Max, Game 7, 1984, 24 points, led all Celtic scores in that game. For those that just forgot.
But let me keep going. 24 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds.
Two steals and a block.
And a block shot.
Okay.
And a partridge in a pear damn tree. Okay.
I just want to ask real quick, Max, about Orlando specifically and playing down there. Obviously, Tatum is banged up. The Celtics are the better team. However, it's not like they've dominated outright in Orlando over the last few years. Is there any reason to be, I don't even know if I want to use this word, but concerned that maybe the Magic could turn this into some kind of a series with Tatum banged up and getting some home games?
Well, I think if you looked at it in 2 of the games that the Magic won this year against the Celtics, I think here in Orlando, Jason Tatum didn't play in either one of those games. Mm-hmm. And Orlando was very dominant. I think one of the things the Celtics have really done well is they've taken the Magic bench out. Cole Anthony, I thought, would have a big series and playing well. And role players play better at home. So look at Cole Anthony, and that might tell you a little bit more about how Orlando is going to attack maybe tonight. But it doesn't concern me in the fact that I just think the Celtics have done what they needed to do. And all the pressure right now is still on Orlando to win a game here. So I don't really think didn't put that much concern in it. If the Celtics play their A game, I think they win this series, and they win it easily.
And you don't have to worry about a role player like Hauser playing worse on the road because he was so bad the other night. I don't think it's possible for him to play worse.
You know what? Let me show you guys what's behind me right now. This is the swimming pool. This is the hotel I'm at. So you think right now I'm really feeling bad right now about the day. It's beautiful here this morning. Oh, my God.
Okay.
No, he didn't play well. And but I think you could look at Pritchard, though, on the other side. And Pritchard has been sensational. So you've gotten some, up and down, lukewarm things that have come from the Celtics. And even Luke, Cornette, who's been really good this year, hasn't played as well in this series. So the Celtics still have a lot in the tank, I think, for this particular series.
Andrew Callahan brought up something this morning, Max, that he asked me, and I'm like, maybe I wasn't here. Maybe we forgot to ask. The last time we asked you about your dinner with Grandy in San Antonio, it was on like the eve or the day before the dinner. I don't know if we've done the follow-up. Did the dinner happen? Did you have your foo drinks? Did you do it?
We actually we wanted to go that night to Mitieras after the game. And we thought it was a 24-hour Mexican restaurant. Well, we get in the cab about probably about 9:30, and the cab driver says, well, you know, this place is closing at 10 o'clock now since COVID. I was like, what?
Oh, no.
So, no, we didn't get a chance to go to Mitieras. We ended up going to the Hard Rock Cafe. We had some foo drinks, but no authentic Mexican food.
Oh,
so,
no.
yeah, I was pretty pissed about that.
What did Sean drink?
We both had wow, that's one grown man to another. We both be telling drinks. Hold on, let me see. We both had a picture of margaritas.
Beautiful. And was there any memorabilia that caught your eye at the Hard Rock there in San Antonio?
There's always memorabilia if your eyes are wandering enough.
Okay.
And me being a 69-year-old man, my eyes do more than my mind right now. So I'm good.
Okay. No, I'm not talking about like the waitresses. I'm talking about like where they're, you know, did they have like one of Prince's outfits? Did
white T-shirt.
Yeah. Did they have a Jimi Hendrix guitar there on the wall? They've got rock and roll memorabilia at the Hard Rock.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Good grief, Max.
I'm sorry. They did have some of that on, but I don't really look to see the Jimi Hendrix and all that stuff. I don't look for that stuff. I was looking at the other, you know, peripheral things out there. That's what I look at.
You're looking, yeah. If they don't have a James Taylor acoustic guitar, you're not interested.
There you go. You have James Taylor, Fire and Rain. I'm just waiting for you guys to end off with this. It'd be beautiful.
We will. You know what? You can bring it up now, Ryan, as we get ready to say goodbye to Max here. And we've got another Celtics game tonight. You and Grandy will be on the call. What do you think? Is the sweep in play, Max, or do you think Orlando ends up getting one or even two?
Well, obviously, I think if you win the next game here, I think a sweep probably would happen. And the reason I say that is if the Celtics win game 3, what happens normally with a game 4 in a person's home is the Orlando starts out and they play well in that game. And then psychologically, what happens, your mind says, why are we going to go back to Boston and get swept? So tonight, obviously, is a huge game when you think about what Orlando is going to field and how they're going to play.
Okay. Can you hear that? Can you hear that underneath us here?
I can hear it. I can hear it. Better have some tickets when James Taylor comes to town, where I'm going to talk to Mary or I'm talking to Rick. Somebody's going to have to come up with something.
All right, I'll get on it, and I'm also going to watch the entirety of the Celtic City thing because I would love to engage in some informed viciousness with you, and I will join your cause here.
Please do. I would love to. We can all both pick a bone, and you can understand what I'm talking about. If you have one of the most iconic things said in Celtic history of saying, climb on my back, it's down at the library. It's at the library in Boston on the wall, but they didn't put it in the series. Okay.
Yeah, unforgivable.
Nice.
All right, Cedric Maxwell, you're the best. Thanks, Max.
All right.
Thanks, Max.
All right, we'll see you. All right, we have Andrew Callahan here, who is favored us and brought to the program 2 stats and 1 lie, which is a thing unto itself now, to the point where other people have composed 2 stats and 1 lies for Andrew to participate in. It's a busy day here. You know, we're in the middle of the draft. We've got the NBA playoffs. So it was kind of pushed aside today. We thought, we don't even have time for it today. To the rescue comes George, producer George, who not only has put together 2 stats and 1 lie. How many did you do, George?
I ended up doing 4.
Okay, so this is like Jonah Hill asking to evaluate 5 players and he did 50,
73. Yeah.
52.
Yeah.
8 stats, 4 lies.
So we're good. No, we're not doing.
I don't know. I think we could. I've kind of come around on this. We have 15 minutes. Let's go rapid fire.
We're not.
Mark,
So what is it
Mark
when he
and I
did-
played this. When did we film in Christmas Eve? No,
New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Is this? He did 4. So is that 2 stats in a lie 4 times?
Yes.
Okay.
4 different editions.
Okay.
There's a Will Campbell edition.
I asked him. I said, "Well, just pick the best one." He goes, "Yeah. We'll probably have time for like 2 of them." I said, "George, we're gonna have time for 1. We're gonna do 1. So kick it around the room between you and Beaton and Jameli. Pick the best." Collection, however you want to pick and choose
You know what?
from
No,
the
George put in
4
the time.
different.
He put in the effort. We're going to honor all 4 stats
No, we're
tonight.
not. No,
and
we're
when
not.
Fred comes back, and whenever I'm here next, we are going to do 5 stats and lies
Okay.
just to break Fred's brain.
What if you want to save them for future use? That's fine, George. But just the best of the 4 that you put together. 1 edition of 2 stats, 1 lie.
Give him 2. Give him 2.
We're doing
Give 'em 2.
1. We're doing 1 compiled by George. We'll see how this one goes, and we'll do that next here on Toucher and Hardy.
I've seen.
lie. Two of these stats are obviously the truth. One is a lie. Some imaging with this would be fun.
Andrew Callahan is really given the gift that keeps on giving. 2 stats and 1 lie, so much so that other people have now come up with their own 2 stats and 1 lie. And today, George, for the very first time, presenting a 2 stats and 1 lie. You actually compiled 4 in the time I asked you to just do 1. Over delivering, as is your custom, George.
Yes, I'm one with the Peyton Manning approach. You over prepare for these things, and then you end up being ready. Now that we're here, hopefully the wheels won't fall off. I have 4 different topics, but we'll go one at a time, or as long as we'll
go with 1.
We'll go with 1.
We'll go with 1, and
listening not my forte.
All right, so let's get our official theme going here.
Let's do this. It takes 2 steps from the other night. And one lie, see if you can get it right. It takes 2 steps from the other night. And one lie, see if you can get it right.
George also providing us with a printout copy of all 4 2 stats and a lie. Which one are we doing here?
We're going to do the second one, the wrestling edition.
All right, so let's not read these ahead of time, guys. Let's do this in the manner it was intended. Okay, let's just listen, and then you can refer to the notes afterward.
I'm
okay?
not listening to you.
I want you. I want eye contact with you, Callahan. You look at me, or you look at George.
See, I've heard that before, and I don't listen then either.
Okay.
But
George, what are the 2 stats and 1 lie? Go ahead. We're ready.
All right, wrestling edition. All right, so as we all know, the Super Bowl of wrestling, WrestleMania 41, was last weekend. 2-night extravaganza. The last time WrestleMania was a one-night endeavor was pre-pandemic in 2019 for WrestleMania 35. All right, that is the stat. Could be lying.
So that's we're in it.
The last time the WrestleMania was a one-night endeavor was
2019.
pre-pandemic in 2019, WrestleMania 35.
Okay. All right. He said it so definitively. I want to say immediately in my mind that is an actual stat. So maybe your delivery here is either very cunning or you just gave it away. I'm not sure yet. Okay. Go ahead.
All right, let's see. Number 2, John Cena. We all know John Cena, right? You Can't See Me. Massachusetts native, right?
Yeah. Newbury.
Well, yeah. So he came back to wrestling, and he came back to tie Ric Flair for his 16th championship reign with his win over Cody Rhodes this WrestleMania Sunday. John Cena, 16th championship.
Okay. So John Cena tied who?
Ric Flair, the Nature Boy.
So you're saying that 16 times is a stat, and that happened this past weekend.
They keep count, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And John Cena has tied that record, yes.
Okay. All right.
All right. So the third stat.
I'm having trouble determining what are actual facts in here and what is just preamble.
Exactly.
It's
almost like we should do another.
That's right.
You shush.
All right. So third stat. Dominic Mysterio won the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. Dominic and his father, Rey Mysterio. Dominic and Rey became the 3rd father-son duo to hold the Intercontinental Championship in WWE history.
This is the one that you guys came up with. You batted this around in the back room and said, this is the best of the 2 stats and 1 lie. Ryan, were you a part of this?
No, I said, George, you did all this work. You pick which one you want to do.
Oh, thank you for that, Ryan.
Yes.
Good. Excellent job filling in as lead producer today.
I will sit on the sword for this.
Third one is the lie.
Do you know this?
I don't know anything about wrestling. Third one is the lie.
Why do you say that?
I invented the game. I get a good feel. I don't think it's the first one for the reason that you described. I know John Cena's been around for a while, as has Ric Flair. I would not be surprised because of those facts that if it was the lie, Georgie looked away after sharing the third one as to not make eye contact, which would indicate a little bit of discomfort.
Oh, so me telling you to maintain eye contact with either me or George has actually worked against me because now you have an advantage.
Yeah, but I'm also a practiced liar here. So I will lie to your face. Eye contact.
Honesty is not always the best policy.
Not right now. Not this segment, baby.
You're saying number 3 is the lie.
Yes.
Okay. Mark Dondero.
I think number 2 is the lie. John Cena I feel like first of all, I don't know anything about wrestling. I don't like wrestling. I don't care. John Cena feels skinnier now. And I know he's a big name, but 16 championships. I don't remember seeing people freak out about that. I'm going with that's a lie. He didn't tie Ric Flair. That's the lie.
Okay. As to Andrew's point, the way George delivered the first stat or lie sounded truthful. It sounded like he was just rattling off something that he didn't even have to research. He just knew that to be true.
The content feels like it could be a true story.
Right. And as much as I love the action, to me, the action is the juice. I would love to go number 1 so that only one of us is going to be right. I do feel what you just said, something about John Cena, something in that did not sit right with me. So I, too, believe that number 2 is the lie. So I'm siding with Dondero. I'm going against...
All right, speed it up. We got another
I'm
one.
going to... No, we do not
Yeah,
have
we have a
another
Will
one.
Campbell one. It's a Will Campbell day.
We're not doing another...
Hardy took 1. Dondero took 2. I took 3. Georgie, what was the wrong answer?
All right. The stat that was incorrect was the John Cena. John Cena has surpassed Ric Flair. He's won 17 championships as of WrestleMania Sunday.
Dondero was right. Why are you celebrating?
He took that. He took it with me.
I took
Oh,
it
you
with
did?
him.
Oh, I thought
you're
you-
not even paying attention. See,
I'm on to the next.
You're so
On to the next.
convinced that
All
we're
right, Will
doing
Campbell.
that we're doing another one of these, which we're not. Not now,
Georgie,
anyway.
go.
Andrew's got 2 stats. Andrew's got
We have
2
time.
stats.
We really don't.
Kendra's not even around.
She's back there.
She's
Play me out.
She's ready.
See, this is the trouble with me making eye contact with you. I don't even know who's around me.
I tell you what. We will do because Adam 12 is not here, and we can't do the traditional free stuff that Adam 12 gets to do over the weekend thing. For the stack today, we'll do the Will Campbell 2 stats.
There's
one
also a Jaguars edition here, which would fit Kendra. Maybe we just make it. Kendra's
I don't want
choice.
you reading
2
them
stats
ahead
in
of
a lie
time.
hour.
Yeah, to be fair, though, I quizzed Kendra in the back on the Jaguars one, so it wouldn't be pertinent to do it on air.
If you promise to put it away and not look at it anymore, we'll do at least
All right,
one
Dad.
more.
Yeah, sure. I'll
Okay?
put it away. I'll put my toys away and not look at them again.
Not that it helped you in the first one. Dondero and I emerged victorious. You lost.
I did. I lose.
You
I'm
still,
a loser.
You want to do another one even though you
Yes,
lost?
I want
All right.
redemption here.
Great job, George.
Thank you.
All right,
Well done, George.
We'll do it.
Love a spit.
We'll do at least one more, but Kendra Middleton will join us next. Her Jaguars made some real news last night. We'll talk about that here on Toucher and Hardy.
2 Jacks in one line.
goes deep. I'm a Bostonian! This is Boston's home for sports.
Bow, bow, bow!
98.5, the Sports Hub.
You said you wanted to hear more music in the morning.
Never had to knock on wood, but I never had it yet.
No, you said you didn't want to hear more music in the morning. Okay. Here's more Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
The Jacksonville Jaguars just traded up to get your services to their team. What conversations have you had with them with how you are going to be used in the NFL?
The crazy part is I had no conversation with them outside of the combine, so I didn't know what to expect, and I'm excited that they came and picked me. I wanted to cry, but I can't cry right now because I'm too.
By Kendra Middleton. Without Fred and without Wallik, that means Andrew Callahan is also here. Mark Dondero is here. But Kendra, as she is accustomed to joining us on Friday, is doing so now on the day after really the biggest story of the draft last night. As a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, Kendra Middleton, how are you feeling this morning?
I have a hot take. I think they gave up way too much.
Come on.
I'm excited about the player. Don't get me wrong.
Dondero's about to lose
I know.
his mind.
I'm excited about the player, but I think that giving up next year's first is too much.
Okay. Who would like to start? I mean, you have quite possibly a generational talent on your roster now.
Quite possibly, but how has every generational talent that the Jacksonville Jaguars have ever drafted worked out?
Okay, well, at some point, if you want to get good, at some point you have to start getting good.
Yeah.
And this is a great move in getting good.
Yeah.
By moving up to take Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I'm happy. I like the player. I'm not going to cry about it. I did cry last night when I found out what they gave up next year's first. But then I found out that it was him and not Abdul Carter, so I was a little bit happier. But yeah, I think that they gave up a lot. I'm excited about it. I just think that they have to focus really on the offensive and defensive line for the rest of the draft and maybe a running back and a backup quarterback late, but they gave up so much.
So the interesting part of this to me, and there's a great quote I just found from James Gladstone speaking about Hunter last night.
I know where you're going with this.
Is that the question all along has been, can he play both ways? And there's this idea of, as Vrabel outlined at the owners' meetings when we asked him specifically about Travis Hunter, start him at one position, build from there. Sounds like you're just going to dabble. When you make this trade, which I called an NBA trade in the NFL draft, you're going to change our franchise, our future, everything revolves around you now. Their answer wasn't maybe, it wasn't we're going to dabble, it was yes. And here's the quote. This is from their GM last night. There are players that you can target and acquire who alter the trajectory of a game. There are players you can target and acquire that alter the trajectory of a football team. There are very few, and it's rare to be able to target and prioritize a player who can alter the sport itself. And Travis is somebody that we view has the potential to do that. So you disagree, or you're reluctant to think that way?
No, I'm excited about the player. I think that he's going to be great. I just don't think that there's any way that you play both ways in the NFL. My thing is, I loved the joke. I think it was Kay Adams that called him Gladstones. I thought that was really funny.
Good.
And like with his history with the Rams, he clearly doesn't care about picks. They gave up so many picks, went out and got a bunch of guys, and then won the Super Bowl after that. So I get the F them picks, as he said last night in his press conference mentality. I like that. I just, as a Jaguars fan who's had my heart ripped out, thrown on the ground, and stomped on for 29, 30 years now, like, I need, show me. You know what I mean? I'm at the point as a fan where you have to show me.
So if you're talking about getting into like total contention for a Super Bowl, I understand some of the reservations. You want picks and you don't want to lose a first-round pick. I think you and I did a show, Kendra, where I actually asked you, are you, as a Jaguars fan, are you sold on Trevor Lawrence? And I think you said you were, but I forgot. I don't want to speak for you. My point is, I think they did this, and I don't think he's going to play both ways. I mean, he will, but not full-time. If they did this, I think they did this for Trevor Lawrence, because we've seen Trevor Lawrence go up and down. He looked great, and they were in the divisional round against the Chiefs, and I'm totally sold. I'm picking him to win MVP, get to the championship game, and then he comes in. They were, 4-13 last year? I think they do this to put Hunter at wide receiver, to pair him with Thomas, and make sure that Trevor Lawrence is the guy that they think that we all thought he would be. That's why I like it for them.
Well, the thing is that they did the same thing when they went out and got ETN. That was for Trevor Lawrence. They drafted them both from Clemson, same year, same round. And I thought that was for Trevor. And yes, you can't really replicate what happened to him in his rookie season. That was just an absolute dumpster fire. But having Travis and BTJ is great. But if you don't have a line, how are you supposed to have time to get them both the ball?
Okay. it's not a perfect swap out, but let's reverse it for a second. Let's say the Jags were picking second overall the entire time, and Travis Hunter was their presumed pick at number 2. Had they moved out of that spot to pick up an extra draft pick here or there, especially for next year, would you have been happy with that?
Yes, because if I'm a Cleveland fan, am I upset that I missed out on Travis right now? Yes, but next year's draft I think is so much better, and I get he's a generational talent. But I'm very much in the camp of follow the Eagles model and build through the trenches. I've always felt that way. And I do believe in Trevor Lawrence, but I think that if you're going to get back even the ounce of confidence that he maybe still has left, you need to give him time to throw the ball, because last year when he was healthy, he was in the dirt way too much.
I can't wrap my head around not being more excited about getting Travis Hunter.
I am excited. I'm scarred.
So this is interesting too, because I bring up the NBA analogy, and I think there are certain teams that are either stuck in purgatory or stuck lower than that, and you start to just not root for winning. Like, the idea of a championship is so far out there.
Right.
I just forget it. So you root for fun. I see this through that prism as like, this is maximum fun. I said it before we went on air. Hardy's referenced it. I, as someone who doesn't root for a team anymore, covers the Patriots, will actively look to see what the hell the Jaguars did every single Sunday because of this player. Is there any part of you, and I want to do the flip it around too and get to the Browns in a second, because I think they won in a big way, that also just says, my team got a lot more fun. This dude's awesome. Like, this is a guy who might be the face of the league, the rare face of the league who's not a quarterback.
Yeah, I think the team got a lot more fun, but I had fun with BTJ last year. Like I said, I'm super excited about it. I'm gonna go into. I'm saying this now, and I know I'm gonna go into this season and be
You're
like,
gonna talk yourself into it.
I know I'm gonna be like, you know what, hell yeah, like that's how I'm gonna be come September. But for right now, my just initial reaction when I heard that they gave up next year's first round pick, I was just like, that's a lot. This better work out.
So you make a deal next year to get back into it. Just keep kicking the can down the road until you get to the point where you're good enough to where it doesn't matter. I mean, that's a notion right there. And look, I get it from the Cleveland perspective. Like, what exactly were they going to do with Travis Hunter if they had selected him at number 2? That was always my question with Cleveland. Like, are you really in a position to utilize that guy to his fullest right now with the way the rest of your team is constructed?
You don't believe in Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco?
I know.
You mean Shador Sanders?
Not according to Bert, but we'll see.
Yeah, we're wondering when Shador Sanders is going to be selected now.
That was my shock of last night. There was always this rumbling of Jackson Dart going ahead of him, then I just didn't believe it. I would actually like to take a love you, Dan Lifshatz, mean it, but I knew that Jackson was going to go in the first round, and he said that he would book me on it. But that was my shock last night, that he didn't go anywhere. I thought that it was going to be Pittsburgh.
I thought Pittsburgh too, but I would understand why not, because they just never saw him as a first-round quarterback and prospect. And I just think, look, there are so many elements to the draft beyond just the player and the team and the fit. Like, the job security of the GM is an element and a reason that drove the conversation about Shador to the Giants, right? It was like, they need to save their jobs. You take a quarterback. The place that James Gladstone in as a 34-year-old who's been emboldened, take the keys. That's what allowed the Jaguars to make the pick, in addition to Travis Hunter being so great. And Shador Sanders' place, now with his dad perhaps looming in Twitter, as Bert alluded to it an hour or two ago, might have caused a fall in the draft. Like, this is so much more of a drama and a TV show, which it always was. In addition to the fact this deal was supposedly done with the Travis Hunter deal 2 weeks ago. It just didn't surface because ESPN and the NFL Network want to preserve their ratings. That there are so many things we don't know that shape what we see. And I think that all came together in this deal, in addition to the quarterback supposedly falling, who were never going to go that high in the first place.
Did it surprise you with Tony Boselli being involved in the Jags now that they did go with Travis Hunter and not a lineman?
Yeah, but I think the other part is it's such a deep draft on the defensive line, which Mason Graham was this pick.
Yeah.
And that's who the Browns ended up getting. And you go, okay, he's the king of kings then. You know, the best defensive lineman and the best defensive line class we've seen in however many years. That's cool. I'd be content waiting to the second and third round, you know, and I don't know where they're at in the offensive line, but it's just
terrible.
So many factors here. And if you look from a Patriots standpoint, you're going, why didn't they trade up for Travis Hunter? Well, you don't want to give up your first round pick.
No.
Like, you stink worse than the Jags do right now.
Barely.
And we'll see how things go moving forward. But it's so many things that were unsaid and unseen for the last 2 weeks shape what we saw last night, but they all make sense now.
That whole idea of maintaining ratings and maintaining some air of the unknown and unpredictability, I think that fed into that pre-draft show last night where guys were sitting around and Booker McFarland and other guys saying, I think Shador Sanders should be off the board before anyone else in terms of quarterback, and not necessarily predicting that he would be the number 1 overall pick, but making the case that it should be him instead of, and I don't understand that unless you are so just keeping in line with what the company wants and somehow think it's in your best interest to do what they want so that they can keep their ratings high for the first 15 minutes of the 8 o'clock hour. Because you lose all credibility when you say stuff like that, when the entire world knows it's not happening, and it looks worse and worse for those guys as pick after pick after pick come off the board. And now you got guys saying this morning, we don't even know when he's going to go in the second. You just talk about kicking it down the road. It's like it might be a while before Sanders.
Mel Kiper did his thing. He was talking about Shador. Okay, whatever. He likes Sanders. And then I think they went to Louis Riddick, who said Cam Ward should be the pick. And then they go to Booger McFarland. And they're like, all right, break the tie, Booger. We got one here, one there. And I'm like, all right, he's going to. And he said Shador Sanders. And I'm like, what is going on? This is a historic fall, isn't it? I mean, they talked about him being a top 3 pick. And now we're trying to figure out a place in the second round.
Only historic if you believe those guys are speaking their minds and not what they're saying because their bosses want them to. And I think there's a huge element of that. That sucks. It sucks as a viewer if you don't know anything about it to think that these guys are you're being tricked into believing something. Or it sucks for them that they feel they have to say this crap in order to keep their jobs and to keep their bosses happy. Speak as intelligent football analyst. Don't give me what the mouse wants you to give me.
Yeah, I agree with all. But it goes beyond last night, though. This has been the narrative for even back into the college football season. It was like he wore the cleats at the Alamo Bowl, the Giants cleats. Like he was talked about like a potential top 3 pick, top overall pick.
Yeah. I think it's only shocking if you didn't, because of his name recognition. I think it's only more shocking than the Will Levis thing because of who his dad is. Will Levis fell really far and was expected to go super high. I think Will Levis was a better prospect than Shador, in my opinion, coming out of college, which might be a hot take. But in last year's draft, I didn't have Cam Ward. If Cam Ward went last year, I think he probably would have been the 7th best quarterback last year. And I think Shador will have a better career than Cam because I think he's a harder worker. But these quarterbacks would have not even been a thought in the first round last year, both of them.
And I think it's really important now, with the Shador as the biggest example, to inspect and examine when we hear you say, oh, they were talking about X. He's going to be a top 3 pick. Who was it? Is it someone motivated to do that, like his dad?
Right.
Is it an agent? Are there teams at the top that are hoping to speak that into existence to create a kind of market? Because the insiders who just told us last night, oh, this deal was done 2 weeks ago. Why didn't you tell us? Because they're withholding information to, again, boost the TV show that they're trying to protect. And I think the league has even reached out. Jay Glazer, for example, whose credibility is pristine, undented, untouchable, was the first to leak mention of this in a tweet or suggestion. He doesn't work for the NFL Network. He doesn't work for ESPN. He worked for Fox, but they're a business partner. So I'm sure they said, look, you might have heard this. Say boo. Say nothing. Maybe in the buildup for the pregame show. But when we go into next year's draft, I'll just say, where is the information coming from? Why might it be coming from there? Is this credible? Or do we have to wait until the draft? Because, as we saw, a lot of expectations were shattered and even goes beyond Shador.
And I'll say one thing. The last couple of years, there has been a rat in Jacksonville. Like, there have been leaks like none other. And that rat is gone. Because not a single insider, not a single reporter that I've spoken to in the last 12 hours knew that this was coming. There was definitely a rat in Jacksonville because you know all those like burners that somehow know things around the draft and get all these things right that people start to trust? None of those burners and none of the reporters that I've spoken to knew a damn thing.
I'm guessing there's a lot of rats in Jackson. I haven't been there, but it doesn't impress me as being like
Have you been to Boston lately?
A clean city.
You got to get there.
Is it clean?
So when I was a kid, Jacksonville was the absolute hood, okay? That just straight up. But now that they have like a PGA headquarters and they have the Jaguars and all that kind of stuff.
And a Hard Rock Cafe.
It's definitely grown up, for sure.
Okay.
It's if you like golf, you would like Jacksonville.
You have to go to Sawgrass. You have to.
Okay.
It's the greenest grass I've ever seen outside of Ireland.
Well, they paint it.
Yes, but still, it's green.
Okay. Kendra's with us. You had action. You got to the window on many pre-draft propositions. Am I right?
Yes.
All right. We'll find out how you did. We'll find out what you're thinking here for rounds 2 and beyond as we continue here this morning on Toucher and Hardy here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
day in sports.
I mean, I think in a playoff series, nothing's commanding. You know, at the end of the day, we only did our job. We have home court advantage this series. We took advantage of home court, and now we go into enemy territory where, you know, they play great at home, and, you know, they've outplayed us at their place. So we've done nothing more than do our jobs up until this point, and it only gets tougher from here.
Zolak and Bertrand, weekday mornings at 10 on the Sports Hub. Half Toucher.
Dressed like a gorilla.
Half Hardy.
A big, beautiful ball of flame.
And a whole lot of Boston sports.
And I have had many offers to become an insider.
Butterfly. It was
Oh,
from
that's a banger.
Red Hot Chili Peppers song.
Come, my lady, come, my
Yeah,
lady.
the sound is from an old Red Hot Chili Peppers song.
I got some trivia
Come on,
for
you
you.
didn't know that, Hardy.
Hardy, did
we
you
were
know?
forced to play that on like so many different radio stations. There was like some meeting in the mountains, like in the Swiss Alps, and they said everyone's going to play Crazy Town Butterfly. What do you mean everybody? Hard rock, alternative, pop stations. Everyone's going to play this song, and they said, okay, make it so, and we all had to play it. We're still not sure why. All right, what? Go ahead. You got trivia?
Yeah. Did you know that Will Campbell allowed just 2 sacks in 2024? Did you know Will Campbell had a stretch of 24 straight games without allowing a sack?
I feel like I'm being set up for something.
Did you know that last season there were only 10 starting tackles with an arm length of less than 33 inches?
You're doing George's 2 stats in a lie.
What? No. That one of those was fake.
All right, now,
It's now your job to figure it out.
Now that you've done it, now we have to do it.
Yes.
This isn't at all what we had planned here.
You started with trivia.
Two truths and a lie.
I'm going with the last one.
All right, go ahead. Say them again.
In 2024, Will Campbell allowed just 2 sacks. In college, Will Campbell had a stretch of 24 straight games without allowing a sack. Last season in the NFL, there were only 10 starting tackles with arm lengths less than 33 inches.
Last one.
Yeah, the last one is a lie.
I'm going to say the last one's a lie.
Georgie, I don't know.
Yeah.
So what is it about that third one that is incorrect?
Yeah, the third one is the incorrect one. There were only 6 starting quarterbacks with arm lengths 33 inches or less. 6 tackles.
Yes.
And what did he say?
10.
Quarterbacks.
10 was the one that I put in the line.
I wonder what mine is.
I was saying it's Will Campbell Day. We should have been doing arm length, but these guys wanted to have a height off. So
No,
they did that. Hardy won.
Hardy
Very
wanted
happy.
to have a height off.
Oh,
I didn't care.
You wanted to talk more about Will Campbell's arm length. Is that it?
You know, and it's been a good show. We've spent twice the amount of time in Travis Hunter on a New England station than Will Campbell, who, look, we talked about for 3 months. I just wanted to have 2 stats, 2 birds with 1 stone and a lie in there.
Do you somehow think we're wrong in talking more about Travis Hunter than we are talking about Will
The
Campbell
ratio
today?
2-1, yeah. Oh, speaking of Travis Hunter.
Forgive all of us for somehow being thrown off by the story of last night, and then the
Falcons trade?
Oh, you're really sweating that Falcons
Jackson
trade.
Dart?
Did you know the Jacksonville Jaguars?
We're not doing this here. It was Mark Dondero who selected Kendra Middleton yesterday on the team that includes Scott Zolak, Tony Maserati, John Wallik, Kendra Middleton, Tyler Milliken, Ryan Beaton, and Alex Barth. Now, in terms of your group of fellow combatants on this team, how do you think you will fare in a battle to the death against other Sports Hub people?
These are some of my favorite coworkers. I love them all to death. Love you guys. Mean it. We would be the first to die.
Honestly, Maz has anger. I just don't know how much he has left in the tank at this point.
Know.
As I said yesterday, old Italian man strengths. He'll grow you a hell of a tomato. He's going to help you out and build you a very nice stone wall. It comes to an actual battle to the death, I'm not sure.
The 3 that would have been my big 3 would have been Big Jim, J Stu, and Lift Shots, without a doubt. Those would have been my S tier out of anything. And the fact that some of them...
I got 2 of the 3 on my team.
So I come in yesterday. You didn't put Lift Shots on the list. So I didn't know. I didn't think of Lift Shots.
I was listening yesterday, and he said that you could draft Lift Shots.
Did he?
Yes.
So maybe I just missed it.
All right. So do you want to apologize now, or you want to wait until after the show? Do you want to write me a little note? You want to send me an edible arrangement?
He doesn't have to apologize. He's going to kick your ass, as we established earlier.
Who got Big Jim?
No, we're on the same team.
Felger has talked at length about how
Oh,
Big
that's
Jim
right.
is soft. So I don't
No,
know.
but see,
I'm
that's
just
the
telling you what
thing.
Felger has talked about. I've heard it.
Yeah, but see, he gets so angry on Twitter that I think once you get Big Jim going, you've got him going, and he just inherited a bunch of guns from his dad.
I'm going to play the Fred Toucher role. Kendra, there was some discussion yesterday. Kendra, how are you, Kendra? There was some discussion yesterday as to your bona fides as an actual physical assailant. I, for one, questioned what belt you had and in what discipline. Would you like to push back against that now? Because I think it's mostly nonsense.
Yes, so I got my first black belt in middle school. I started when I was 4. It's in Taekwondo.
So you have a black belt that you achieved at what age?
Probably 12 or 13.
Okay, I'm sure
And
that's
then
legit.
I did judo through college.
Okay.
I told you she was trained.
So you were a black belt in Taekwondo?
Yes. And then I was on the judo team in college.
Okay, would that hold up today? It's like I'm a black belt in Taekwondo and I could really do some damage because I'm a black belt.
Considering I stopped doing judo 4 years ago, I would say yeah.
You get Taekwondo black belt level fighter right now.
No, I mean, no, I haven't trained in Taekwondo since I was 17.
I have 17 championship belts.
Thank you, Sarge GPT. Shouldn't you be forced to give up the black belt if it no longer means anything?
No, because I earned that. And then I did Taekwondo and judo. And on top of that, me and Leroy are the only people in this building that I ever see in the gym.
Well, in the gym here.
Okay, I could say Don Darrow works out,
There's a gym
T-Bone
here?
works out. Who else?
I play pickleball.
Okay. Who else in this building actively works out?
Depends on what you mean by working out.
How often are they in the building?
But even if they have a gym membership somewhere else, who else in this building other than me, T-Bone, and Leroy work out?
Well, I don't know what to do with a lot of that
I'm
stuff.
sitting right here.
I walk past the stuff on the way to the pickleball courts, but I'm not sure how to use any of those things. They're machines. You need some training.
I am once again asking for a Sports Hub combine.
And
T-Bone said he would work out with me, that he would go to the gym with me.
He's
and show me how,
jacked.
We
show me
talked
how to
about
use
him.
this
Yeah,
stuff.
he confessed to being a lunk. Lunk alert.
Not the lunk alarm.
Not allowed at Planet Fitness. to
No.
grow
Yeah.
up.
You know you can't wear tank tops at Planet Fitness as a guy?
What does that mean, a lunk?
There's an alarm at one of those gyms that I don't know. Does it
If you
actually
drop
go
your,
off?
yeah,
or
it does.
It
If you drop your weights
Yeah.
and the sound's too loud, you're not allowed to smash your weights. So you can't power clean or anything and smash your weights down. Or this loser alarm goes off to point you out that you think that you're
no
this big-
grunting. I know you're a grunter. Doing MMBBs.
I don't know what any of those stuff is, and the weights look very heavy. I'm not sure you should be lifting a lot of those. You could hurt yourself.
He sounds like Mike Greenberg for some reason. I don't know why I thought of that.
I just,
No, he did.
You know what I said? This is what I see at the gym.
The only iron I lift is my 7.
This is mostly what I see at the gym, and I'm not necessarily on you, Don Darrow, and I know not T-Bone because he and I have talked about this. The people go to the gym every day, right? I see them when I'm and I'm in my gym 3-4 days a week. Again, walking past the quote unquote people working out on my way to the pickleball courts. You know what I see? People sitting on machines looking at their phones. That's what I see. These people who prop themselves up. I go to the gym 3 days a week for 90 minutes. I see you.
Mm-hmm.
You're on your phones. You're on your phones at the gym. And you, Kendra, cannot tell me you're not one of those people.
No, I definitely am. I do that between sets for sure. But I'm one of the people who, when I'm doing a set, I do it to failure. So I can't jump right back into another set because I do it to failure.
Okay. Do you think you're doing the right amount of time in between sets, or do you sometimes get lost scrolling?
Well, sometimes Jay Stu will come and talk to me for a little while. Love you, Jay Stu. I love when he interrupts my gym sessions. But other than that, I feel like
you guys go to the same gym?
No, he'll see me when he walks in downstairs.
Oh, the gym
yeah.
here. All right.
But other than that, no, I think I'm pretty much an in and out person because I have so much crap going on.
That seems to me to be maybe a breach of etiquette to go into the gym that is here on the premises and start talking to somebody when they're in the middle of working out.
Why? I invite him to. And I'm the only person that uses that gym.
Because you're really not working out. You're on your phone and you're talking to people. So, yeah, you go to the gym a lot.
You want to feel my
but
guns, Hardy?
No, I do not. But again, I go to the gym. You're on your phone. You're talking to Chase too. You're doing other stuff.
It's possible to kind of work out and have a conversation, be on your phone, get back to the workout. You can do that.
My gains speak for themselves.
Your what?
My gains.
What are your gains?
My muscles.
What are they? They must be measurable if they speak for themselves.
Okay.
What do you do? You have stats?
I mean, no, I just go
George, can you do a Kendra muscle gains 2 stats 1 live for us, please?
As long as she could do a push-up, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I take
A
creatine.
push-up?
Come on.
1 push-up?
Nick, will you come in here and do push-ups for us again, please?
I can definitely do more push-ups than Nick.
No, I don't want you to come in and do push-ups again. We don't have Billy Jaffe here to do a poor job of judging it.
Is this gym open to the whole building here?
Yeah.
So I can't get in. I don't know what that means. I've tried to get in, but my fob doesn't.
I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could. I mean, you might have to get a.
I think I need somebody to scan it or something. But
You
I've
can
tried.
just jump over the wall.
Really?
That's a work.
Yeah.
That's part of your workout.
Like the balcony is like.
No,
on the
there's literally
okay.
like a little shelf that you can just jump over.
you
I've
can-
locked my card in there before, and I've just boop.
Psycho enough to have like silent rivalries at the gym, like someone who's always showing up at the same time, doing similar sets or similar exercises.
Sounds like something that you have some familiarity with.
Yeah, mid-20s is big, like silent. Like, what's he got over there? What's he doing? Okay, throw another 25 on.
Just because you see that guy over there and you know what he was doing last week.
Yeah, you got to be similar, Bill. We know what we're doing coming in, and usually just get in, take care of your business. But there's a little bit still left in me as far as that goes.
I would die to see anyone in this office at a Pilates class. Pilates is the most humbling thing in the world.
I've done yoga before, and I got to tell you, it is. Well, I went one time with my wife, and midway through it, she will attest to this. I turned my head and whispered to her, "I hate you for making me do this." The amount of sweat that was just pouring off of my body.
Is this
and
yoga or Pilates?
Yoga.
Was it
and,
hot
and
yoga?
Pilates
Did hot
is
yoga once.
even tougher.
Did
I'm
hot
guessing.
yoga once. It was different.
Yeah, it's no fun.
You sweat. You're
Yeah.
not even moving that hard, but
Good for you, sure. I choose not to. No, thank you. No, I don't want to. All right, Kendra, it's been an absolute giggle fest as always. Thank you.
I will bring something fun when the boys are back next week again.
In terms of what? This was fun.
This was fun. I've been enjoying the games I've been bringing.
Oh, all right. And in terms of like actually betting on the rest of the draft, fool's errand, trying to predict what's going to happen next.
No, I mean if you have a hunch, it can be fun, but it's not what it is the first night. I would say if you're looking to make some money, probably lean more towards the NBA at this point.
All right.
We were talking off the break.
What was that? What would have a live bet on OKC when they were down 29 last night?
I bet them when they were minus 4.5. They weren't down 29. It was like I bet 100 or no. I bet 75 to win 135, something like that.
I wonder at what point they stopped being minus money. Like how many points down they had to be before they turned into plus money.
Yeah.
They were down 20 and they were still minus 4.5.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I wasn't watching the game last night because I was just watching the draft.
And that was before Morant got hurt.
That's crazy. All right.
All right,
good
boys.
stuff, Kendra. Thank you. And people can find you.
You can follow me at Kendra Middleton everywhere, but Twitter is Kenny with an I Middleton.
All right, there we go. Kendra Middleton.
I'm a blue sky person. We like blue sky.
I don't know what we're going to do now. I was going to save the stack today for another 2 stats 1 lie, but you blew through 1 or 2 of them just now, Andrew.
Just one.
All right.
Tease another.
All right, we'll do one more. We'll do one more here during the stack. Would that make you happy?
Kind of over it now.
Okay, we'll do something else then. We'll do whatever Andrew wants to do. How's that? He's in a weird place. We're going to take his temperature during the break, and then we'll be back after the headlines.
Sports Hub Headlines. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
Sports Hub. We know what you're thinking. What could I possibly have missed from the show? It's time for The Stack on Toucher and Hardy.
Stack time before we get to it. Mark Dondero from the previous headline has this.
Just some business. The previous headlines is brought to you by, or was brought to you by, Nashua Hyundai, committed to giving you the value you deserve. Shop hundreds of vehicles in-store, online, 24/7, like the new 2025 Hyundai Elantra SC for only $229 a month. Nashua Hyundai, the team that's committed to you. See dealer for complete details at NashuaHyundai.com. Please read all lines. Thank you.
Please read all lines.
Wasn't supposed to say that.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Man.
I was feeling.
Go bleep yourself, San Diego.
I thought it was some fine print thing that they were trying to warn the customer about.
Years ago, I was filling in on the morning show, and they ran in copy to me to do a live commercial, and it was like at the last second, and I'm like, I gotta give it to me. I'm like, 98.5 Sports Hub. Bum, 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 bum. Make it personal. Make it about yourself. Have some fun with this. Oh no. That's what I say to myself every time I go into Skippy's Donuts.
Oh, jeez.
I read the instructions verbatim at the top of the copy. Shame on them for putting it in there.
This is a year old.
That's on me.
But it popped up on Twitter or my reels the other day. The Conan ad read for a bidet where he flips out in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
Is absolutely fantastic.
Wait,
and this
I
is
didn't
a
see
classic
this.
case. Oh, it's so good. He's just like, I went to college. I wrote a thesis. What happened to me? Talking about water.
Yeah.
Shooting into your ass.
Yeah. Right.
Toilet paper can't take care of this. What happened to you?
It's
But it's one of those classic, like, bad becomes so good.
Yeah.
And if you're the bidet company, you're upset that they're ripping your company. But also, this goes viral in a way that why would I ever hear about whatever bidet company it was?
Right. You love it.
So every time I get one of those doing my podcast, I'm like, I'd really just love to rip and just see how that goes.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm not Conan, but you know what I mean?
but if you do it in the moment and it's authentic and genuine and it ends
If you
up
make it personal about yourself.
make it personal. Have some fun with it.
Read all the lines.
So, Dondero, you've been here for 2 days, and we barely talked about it off the air. We haven't talked about it at all on the air. You were at the Masters
Yes, Sunday.
2 Sundays ago.
2 Sundays ago, Rory.
How did you end up getting down there on a Sunday grounds pass?
It was a friend of mine. He's not even a big golf guy. He has an uncle that is in the area. They live down in the Georgia, Atlanta area. They've gone every year somehow. He must have gotten grandfathered in like the 90s.
Okay.
So the family has passes every year. I don't know how big the entire family is on golf and playing golf or whatever, but he got access to passes. He told me in January, and then asked me, he was like, well, what day should we go? And I was like, I guess Sunday, right? I mean, I thought the practice rounds are fun, but you got to be there if you can feel the energy of the final round. So we went Sunday, and it just worked out that Rory, it ended up being historic, but it was unbelievable.
Okay, so how close were you able to get? Because I was only there once, and it was the first tournament after like COVID started, and they had the 2020 year in the fall with no spectators. I was there in April of 21 with, I think it was maybe like 25% capacity. So I was able to like go everywhere and see everything, on that one day that I was there. I don't have any comparison for what it's like when it's full.
We had chairs. You know how they do the chairs? If you have chairs, some guy gave us chairs. Shout out Todd Smith. And we brought the chairs down, set them up at the 8th tee. I don't know why. One of the volunteer workers suggested the 8th. So we set them up at the 8th tee. So when McIlroy teed off, we were right there. We were on the network. I tweeted the picture. We were right there for the 8th tee. And then we got great seats at Amen Corner. We weren't even first there. We just walked down, put them down. Great seats, the 11th green, the 12th green. And then on 18, it was a zoo. We tried to go there because I thought it was a Rory coronation. So we go there. Then some a-hole tells me that he double bogeyed 13. I almost got in a fight in the bathroom because what do you mean it's a par 5? How does he double bogey there? But you saw what happened. So then we had to go back out onto the course. We got back to 18 at the end, couldn't get around because they roped everything off for the winner. He misses the putt. We don't see it. Then it's the playoff. We get back to where our seats have been set up on 18, and we saw the playoff hole when he hit the putt to win it.
Can we go back to the bathroom for a second?
Yeah.
Like, do you just go from hands on your manhood to hands around that guy's neck? Like, when
Almost.
you talk about...
Well, nobody has phones, so nobody
Right.
knows what's going on. So there was one time we were on the fairway on 15 right before that huge shot he hit. Nobody along the fairway knew anything that was going on. They didn't know where McIlroy stood, what time.
There's no video board.
No,
there's no way of knowing what's going on.
The audible gasp. 10,000 people at 16 when they posted that Rose had birdied 18.
Yeah,
it was like the reverse roar. Oh, because they couldn't believe he was tied. If Rose had won, I would have watched 3 shots of the champion because we didn't see him at all other than when he went through Amen Corner. We weren't focused on Justin Rose at all.
I had an unpopular take the day after. I said Rory didn't lose the Masters. That's how I felt about it. It should have been a coronation. It shouldn't have been this awesome thing. And he completes the career Grand Slam. It felt like he didn't lose. And more than he won.
Okay, but he didn't. Yeah, but he still made that awesome shot on the playoff.
Yeah, everyone else lost. So you won.
It wasn't as good as it could have been.
Okay.
Mark didn't lose.
He
Didn't
said
get in a fight.
266s Friday and Saturday. Like, what do you want him to do?
Shoot better than 73 on Sunday on your coronation day.
Well,
that's what
won.
That's what I want. All right, Mark Tondero, Andrew Callahan, thank you very much. Full show back together on Monday here on Toucher and Hardy. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Weekend.
Have a weekend. Toucher and Hardy will be back on Monday on the Sports Hub.
Tune into the next Celtics broadcast to find out which player really took care of business